Bless up, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well this evening. I'm your host, Matt as all Win for short. Hope you're all doing well. Just want to get a sound check, make sure everything's okay. And I think everything is okay on my end. So if you are having problems listening to me, let me know. But so far, so good. Now, today in this live stream, I wanted to discuss a topic which, man, it's one of those buzzwords which everyone right now is using, and it's lost all meaning. Let's just be honest. I thought the meaning was one thing, and when you look deeper into it, and this is where I have to correct myself, and this is where I'm going to correct the record on things that I have said, because I've been victim of this, and I see a lot of people victim of this in regards to using this word as a pejorative when it comes to so many situations. I mean, everything on their dog is woke, but I'm only going to focus really on like the entertainment industry, because that's just something which for me is more the narrative or the agenda or the hidden meaning, if it's even hidden, is so apparent when it comes to what people use woke and how woke is being used. And that's really what I wanted to focus on today, because I just have to say it straight away. Everything is not woke. And one of the things which triggered me to say this is I watched this very recent. It's been out for a long time, but The Woman King. Now, when The Woman King came out, or at least when the trailers did, it got so much negativity, so much press, because the name of it, the Woman King, the backdrop of it, slavery, and everything else that was attached to it, and everyone and their dog, and even myself. Again, I've got to correct myself first, because I got to be honest and I got to be fair. Everyone was talking about how, oh, it's woke history, it's made up this, and if you look at the history of the tribes and their involvement in slavery and and everyone was just itching at the bits just to take it all apart without even watching it. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say this, and I'm at this stage, spoilers is irrelevant, but I'll say this. When I watched the film not so long ago, I'll say this: it actually was an excellent film. Yeah, it really was. It was an excellent film. It was excellently done. And here's what I'm going to say about history and historical facts. Now, when it came to people talking about, oh, it depicted white people as being the bad guys, they didn't watch the film. Because if you watch the film, they were a non-entity in that whole film. The whole plot had really nothing to do with it. It was set during that time, but when I tell you there were so many layers to it, there were so many other layers to it that people didn't take into account. It was more about the internal fighting that took place. And they even acknowledged their part in the history of slavery. This is the next thing which people kind of kill me as well, where, oh, they didn't talk about their role in slavery. And you know how, yeah. And again, I have to correct myself, because I get involved in this and I do this myself when I'm like, oh, other Africans sold other Africans. And I'm like, yeah, that's right. But that doesn't absolve anyone from doing any BS. That doesn't take away from the fact that it was certain African tribes, like there's certain Europeans who was involved in World War One and World War Two. No one ever says when it comes to World War One or World War Two, oh, it was a European war. No, they want to delineate clearly to the folks at home who's on the side of good, who's on the side of wrong, because they want to make sure that just because we're all European, that doesn't mean we're all the same. And it's the same thing goes on here. But the reason why I wanted to point that out is because there's a lot of false narratives and false agendas, and everyone just wraps it in this term called woke. And I'm like, look, everything isn't woke. Some things are just badly made as well. That's another thing that we have to point out. Not everything is woke. Some things are badly made. But coming back to this Woman King, coming back to this whole situation, when I watched the film, it just honed in on the fact of, look, when people use that woke trope, when people use it as a pejorative, all it is because the people who use that, shall I say, their hidden agenda, their meaning is they want to keep everything as the status quo, because people are unhappy that they are not being represented. And this is where it comes down to it, especially when it comes to entertainment industry, movies, films, TV shows, punditry, you name it. The real problem, the real skeleton or the elephant in the room, or the real reason why they're saying this word is not because they're trying to make it all so accurate and also amazing and they want it, straight to script. That's BS. It's just the fact that people are using it because guess what? Certain groups aren't being represented how they want to, or certain groups are being overrepresented to how they want it to. And the irony of that, the real irony when I hear that, is these are the same people, again, a subset of people who happen to exist on the right, For some odd reason, and again, this is black or white, because again, black people do this too, as well as white people, but is a subsection of people on the right who will always say this: I don't see color. But yet, what the hell does the word woke mean then? If you don't see color, you don't see race, you don't see ethnicity, you don't see anyone, why do they use the word woke when it comes to things like sports punditry? I mean, over the last few weeks, it's still going on today. It's been going on for ages. The role of female pundits when it comes to football or anything sport related or any presenting show, anything really when it comes to any sort of presenting nowadays. If you ever see a woman who's presenting a show, the first term or the first word that comes out of it is, you must be a token. It must be a woke agenda. It must be this. It must be that. But they were the same people who then will try and tell you, I don't see this. I don't see that. I just want the best person for the job. So I'm like this. All right, cool. So if you don't see that, if you only see a CV, then how do you know that that person's not right for the job? How is that? How is that called woke? What makes you think it's woke? Now, of course, they're not going to answer it to you straight away because they're going to do that whole, well, to do that beatboxing thing. All right, cool. But we all know exactly what it means. They're just unhappy that the status quo, what they know, what they understood it to be, what it should be in their minds, we're breaking the mold. Now, does it always work? No, it doesn't. But that doesn't mean it's because it's woke. It could be just because they're just bad at their job. This is another thing that kills me when it comes to sports punditry. Joey Barton, if you not know or not aware, but Joey Barton was going on this tirade about how female pundits shouldn't be in sports or football in particular, and what do they know about the game? Da 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 da. I had all these guys in the chat or in the comment section of all these articles, and everyone saying, "Oh yeah, what did that person know about this?" And yet, and still, you have, I'll just put it out there, so many crap men pundits out there. I mean, absolutely terrible. Don't know how to even break down the game, analyze the game, use the same idioms. Presenters, I will name them: Alan Brazil, Jamie O'Hara, Jason Kunde, all these presenters. I'm like, these guys don't break down the game like that. These guys are terrible. I was listening to Rory Jennings, another person, again, who was chatting absolute waffle. Man chats absolute waffle. But guess what? They will never be called. They will never be called a diversity hire. They will never be called a woke hire. Why? Because that's what the status quo it should be. And this is the whole point of, when you look at everything being woke, it's got nothing to do with whether it's the right person for the job or not. That's just a smokescreen. A lot of it is just, the whole term now has just been polluted. But truth be told, this is a pejorative term that has been used just so people can keep status quo, which, okay, fair enough then, but don't lie. That's the next thing. It's like, don't be lying on things. Don't be saying, well, the reason why I'm saying this is not because I'm prejudiced against this group, or it's not because I don't want that group, or it's not because I just want the right person for the job. I just want, it's all about fairness. It's all about, you know, earning the right to be in this position. Yet and still, when it's somebody who I know goddamn well this person isn't good at their job, but they will never get hit with that trope, because guess what? That's not what it's all about. This is why when you unpeel all the layers, all these agendas, all these narratives, whenever I hear people talk about, woke this and woke that and everything's woke now, and I'm like, no, it really isn't. It really isn't. There's two things attached to it. It's likely a situation where the people who's involved don't represent who you think it should be, either visually, either facially, either a certain demographic group, whatever it is you call it. This is what it comes down to. It's based on who says it, not what is being said. And that's the killing part. These guys, the same group of people, again, I have to say this, who would always tell me or always tell the people, I just want the best person for the job, irrespective of X, Y, Z, until XYZ appears on the screen or on this or on the show or on a TV series, whatever it may be. I want the best person for the job until XYZ is in the screen, because apparently XYZ can't be in this because XYZ can't be fit for the job. But then I ask, why can't that person be fit for the job? And again, beatboxing, they're not going to tell you it to you straight away. They're going to dance around it, but it's because they look exactly like what they say that they do not see. And that's the issue. That's the thing with woke. I mean, if we go back to my Woman King analogy and I look at other films I was watching, and I was just looking and thinking, Shawshank Redemption, one of the greatest films ever, still to this day. This was done years ago, Shawshank Redemption. And for all those who know about this film, I'm assuming you agree with me. Most people laud Shawshank Redemption. I've not really heard anyone have really a bad word to say about the film in everything: acting, plot, storyline, everything. But do people realize that if that was made today in the exact same way, that would be called woke? Because Morgan Freeman's character shouldn't have been played by Morgan Freeman. It was actually written for, if I'm exactly correct, it was a white guy with red hair. So I think it was like a Scotsman or something of that nature. But it was actually written for his name because his name was Red. Morgan Freeman's name is Red. So Morgan Freeman shouldn't have even had that role. But yet and still, he did have that role because guess what? The directors, the producers, the casting directors, whoever decided that Morgan Freeman was right for the role, thought, you know what? Bun this thing about I'm gonna make this role for how it's meant to be written. I'm gonna write it, and you know what, Morgan, you can step in and play it. And he played a hell of a role, and no one said a thing. No one even said a thing. But I guarantee now, if that was a film that was released today in the same way, everyone would be going crazy. I mean, absolutely crazy, talking about how woke it is and how dare they rewrite this character, how dare they do this, how dare they do that. The same ones who want to talk about creative freedom and creative license ultimately would have scuppered probably one of the greatest films ever made in the Shawshank Redemption. So do you see how sometimes when it comes to these terms and how these words are now the smoke screens used against, you know what, we're just unhappy with the direction things are going. So now we're gonna blanket sweep everything and say, yup, nope, we don't like this, we don't like that, because guess what? The status quo is changing. This is what this term, when you peel behind the layers, when you look at everything, this is what this term actually means. This is what, whenever I hear this word, it just comes in one ear, comes out the other ear when I hear it, because I know what it's about. All this nonsense about, we just want everything to be genuine. I mean, here's the thing: there are legitimate reasons. There are legitimate reasons why I would agree and say, look, that's just not, that takes it too far. But when you actually think about it, creative license should allow somebody to do something which people have never thought about before. That's what you'll think, isn't it? But because we know what people are like, and we know that people can only view things through the prism of real life, this is why it will never work the way that people want it to work. Because same when it comes to female leads nowadays, when it comes to films like action films and things like that. I was watching a clip of Aries Spears on DJ Vlad talking about how he doesn't believe that a woman, some sort of 5'7" or 5'9" stick thing woman's going to be, kicking ass and taking names. And part of me agrees with it. I think, yeah, okay, that's fair enough. But this is cinema, this is film, this is the entertainment industry. This is something which, I mean, if you're going to take that sort of um realism to it, then how do you view hobbits and elves and dwarves, and how do you view people with mystical powers? In it's like, if you're going to use that analogy, it's like, well, hold on a second. Then why do you believe anything? Is it just because it's a man? What is that? But this is how we sort of view things in the world. To a lot of extent of what we view is through the prism of what we believe the world should be and should is. Certain groups there, you can't be that because no, you can't be that, or you can't do that. Oh no, they can't create that because that's just not right. But I'm like, hold on a second, it's a film, is it not? It's a film. Surely we should be able to test the boundaries of what is acceptable in art. That's what art is about. I mean, if you ever go to art galleries and art things like that, I mean, personally, I look at the art. When you look at fashion shows, you look at what's gone on there. I don't like a lot of things. What I see, you go to the Met Gala and all this kind of other stuff. You see all these dresses and all this kind of other stuff. I'm like, nah, not for me. But that's the whole point. Sometimes the whole point of art is to push the boundaries. Now, we could argue whether some things have more, let's say, nefarious reasons in terms of like demonic or things like that. Okay, I got you. I got you. But if we talk about just casting a woman as a female lead in an action movie, if we're talking about that kind of stuff, if we're talking about not casting necessarily this person in this kind of role, this is where it's not nothing to do with trying to keep the integrity of something. A lot of times it's all about, do you know what? The status quo is this. And because it's not the status quo, now I'm going to use this term as a pejorative, and everyone's going to latch on. And because that is like it's a whistleblower, isn't it? It's a word that's like Pavlov's dog. You say this word over and over again, it just triggers people. So much so that people now just believe in so much false narratives before they even watch the film. I was watching Miss Marvel's, another film recently, which again got all the same tropes about how it was woke and all this, female propaganda, all this kind of other stuff. I watched the film, folks. I'll say this: it was a bad film. It was a horrible film, but it had nothing to do with any feminism over any feminism in it. It had nothing to do with woman power. It had nothing to do with that at all. It was just a bad film. That's all it was. A bad film, like so many films out there that's been made nowadays or made in the history in past that I was watching, that's just a bad film. We're allowed to say that everything isn't woke. It's just a bad film. We're allowed to say that everything's not woke. It's just a bad fit. What happened to people saying, look, it's just a bad fit. It's just a bad film. That is it. Because the plot is weak, because the characters are weak, because this didn't make sense, because that didn't make sense, because how it was put together didn't make sense. It was rushed. There's no character development. This didn't make any sense. How she's so strong, yet she's like this. It's so many things that you can analyze how these things play out. But we don't do that nowadays. All it is it's woke, use a pejorative term because we know what's going to happen. Whenever it's not the status quo, whenever there's maybe a woman leader, whatever it is, boom, now you got things which needlessly get criticism which doesn't deserve. And that's what I have to come back and say on myself. I have to really check myself, say, listen, sometimes I'm like this. Look, do I believe the hype? We all are victims of things that we see, what we hear, what we read, because that's just part of who we are as individuals. But you got to break down these narratives and break down these false agendas. Because one, again, if you haven't watched The Woman King and you was one of those guys who were like, "Oh, Woman King, Viola Davis and Co, and they all looked so hard," and they did. I do maintain, for some odd reason, I get why they wanted to do it because they want to show them as soldiers, not these dainty creatures who could overpower men, because that wouldn't make any physical sense. But man, they could have really switched it up a little bit. But the film itself I thought was a really, really good film. And it had nothing to do with what people were saying it was. It was just a very, very good film. And again, because people use these terms incorrectly, or it's not incorrectly, but they have their own agendas attached to it. They have their own ways of doing things. This is how these things get taken out of context. This is how this term woke is used as a pejorative now. I mean, do you know what kills me? If people actually realize what the term woke actually meant way back when, a lot of black people used to use this word woke way back when, just to talk about, are you conscious to the facts? It's almost like red pill. Woke used to be red pill in a way, but not in a way how red pillers have used it, the word term red pill. But woke was that expression. Are you conscious? So in the conscious community, it's like, are you woke? Which means, are you still sleeping on the fact that this is what's going on? And this is how they've sort of transfixed and translated and changed the narrative on the word, which now has been used. It's just mainstream, but it's used in a complete. It's actually used against the same people who use that word. This is the irony of it. I don't know if you guys have clocked onto this, but the irony of the word woke is the original people, black folk, really were saying this en masse way back when about being woke to society, being woke to how things are against them. Truth be told, that term woke now has been used as a way to say, look, let's just be honest, there are too many black people being represented in these adverts, these TV shows, these films. There's too many of this, too many people who aren't like us in these films, and we don't like that. Therefore, that's woke, and we're gonna twist it and turn it, and we're use it in the same way. That's what it is now. That's what it is now. And then everything else that comes off the back of it, not just about that, but LGBTQ rights, all this kind of other stuff gets branded all across it in a nice little I say a nice little bow, but everything's encompasses woke now. Everything. But that wasn't even the original intent of the word. That wasn't the original. I say original, but that wasn't how the word actually even was formed way back when. So it's just funny how things work, and it's just funny how, yeah, this term now, man, it's just used as a pejorative. It's really just to keep the status quo, because anything that's different, anything that seeks to, I don't know, change the boundaries is now seen as woke. I was like, well, that's not really true, is it? I mean, if you can't handle a woman commentating on a football match, then something's wrong. I mean, I get it. You prefer it just because their voice, when it comes to commentating, it can, let's say the high pitched sounds, it doesn't sound as soothing to the, on the TV screens. All right, fine. But when it comes to down to, oh, well, they shouldn't be allowed to have an opinion when it comes to analyzing the game because this is how far they go. They shouldn't be there because their standard of football is different. I'm like, these are the same guys who are sitting here who have never played football in their lives, not to the level which even these women have played retrospectively in their own field. It's not their fault that they're a woman. They were just born a woman, like you were born a man. And the fact that you have so many men pundits who are shit at their jobs. I mean, shit at their jobs. But that's different. That's allowed. You're allowed to have a shit man, but once you have a woman, oh well, whoa, that's too far now. That's really, really too far. And this is the kind of situation where I'm like, well, clearly it's got nothing to do about who's the best person for the job. It's just you just don't like where it's coming from, which leads me to believe you do see color, you do see race, you do see ethnicity, you do see what you say you don't see. It's not about who's the best person for the job. It's yeah, it's all about the messenger, not the message. And this is how things are getting twisted and contorted. Because when I hear these situations like that, it's all about the message and the messenger, not the message. And this is what happened. This is the things which I'm seeing. And this is where for me, I just wanted to at least I won't say set the record straight, but just at least correct myself when it came to the Woman King. Because I did do a video on this. And some of the things I did say do hold up. Again, like I was saying, when it comes to that. From a work aspect, no, that's this film had not to do with being woke at all. Like a lot of films, I see a lot of things that people say, "Oh, it's preaching to this," and it's like, no, it's really not. It really ain't. It really ain't. You just don't like the fact that it may be a different group of people who have the mic or who are represented. Which I mean, I suppose deal with that. I suppose, but yeah, it's one of those things now which I'm looking at it, I'm seeing it, and I'm like, yeah, yeah. Now, big up to people in the chat. Big up Sidonio. Isn't Corella Brahman that gave us the word world karate? No, 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 no. I mean, in terms of that world karate, I don't know, but I know that term woke was nowhere near. That was nowhere near something that she'd given. This was way, 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 way back when. So I don't know if you caught it, but the term woke has been around for ages, ages. And again, it was used as a term to say, look, are you sleeping on the fact or are you awake to what the reality of life is? Again, a lot of black people, again, in the conscious community use this word, are you woke? Way back when. And then, funny enough, now, almost like you could argue the Me Too movement, it was hijacked. And now it's now used as a pejorative, like everything else is, to say, actually, this is this is bad. Woke is bad. This is because it means everything else, which it never was intended to mean. And this is exactly where the term woke now has come. It is, especially now when it comes to LGBTQ and everything else like that, that everything's being pushed again by a lot of times. I'll be honest with you, it's a section of the right who have now used this word like that as a pejorative in order to just, again, like Pavlov's dog. As soon as I say this word, it has a negative connotation to it just off the bat. And even if that thing which they're referring to is not even remotely valid, it doesn't matter because the word's out there attached to it. So now it's attached to that situation, bang, I've got you right where I want you because you've now associated it. It's word association. And now you've got that word associated to a brand, associated to a film, associated with a situation that's going on. And everything's like, there it is. There it is. It's bad because it's a pejorative. Excuse me, just to get some water. So that's how that all came up, and that's how that came about. It's it's just for me when I look at the word now, I'm like, listen, that word means it doesn't mean anything right now. And one of the things which I'm not saying I'm surprised about, because again, I can't act as if I'm alone in this, but there is a difference between white conservatism, or there should be a difference between white conservatism and black conservatism. The one I'm seeing is a lot of black conservatives, they align themselves with the exact same ideology as white conservatives. And what they don't realize is a lot of their views actually are counterproductive to your advancement. And excuse me, got a tickle, got a cough. But what I realized is a lot of black conservatives, they align themselves with white conservatives, even brown conservatives. Someone mentioned obviously Coretta Braverman and similar, same like that. When it comes to these ideologies and these things, which I don't. Sometimes I just think, are you guys just literally paid by these people to be the mouthpiece? Because this is what it is. They become the mouthpiece for a movement on ideology or an anti-movement, shall I say, or an anti situation, which you're saying exactly what they wanted to say, but they needed a different face to be able to say it, so it's acceptable. And this is what happens. I'm like, it happened with Pretty Patel beforehand, and now when Swella Braverman came in, she was just like Pretty Patel times 10, at least in how she comes across. I don't know how she is when it comes to dealing with people and how if her beliefs are really aligned to what she says. I mean, if it does, then it's scary at best. But when you just look at it, you're thinking, I see a lot of black conservatives who align themselves because I get it. If they're unhappy with some of the nonsense on the left, and I'm no way near going to tell you I'm on that nonsense, because that's just it isn't. I can't be. A lot of nonsense I see on that side, I'm just like, you serious? But what happens is, because they are upset with the nonsense on the left, they then turn to the right. But then sometimes it's like, do you realize that the people on the right, especially with how right you guys go, you do know that that's because they had to make such a harsh stance against it. They're against everything, including your your dumbass and everything that your dumbass stands for and everything your dumb people are. But it's just hilarious how I see everything being concocted. And when I hear a lot of conservatives on that side, a lot of black conservatives, again, they're the same ones who talk to me about they don't see race. This don't matter until again, a film comes out, a TV series comes out, a pundit comes out who looks like you. Oh, here we go again, because you've now taken on, it's almost like Dave Chappelle's skit, Clayton Bigsby. If anyone's seen it, hilarious. Just a bit of a rundown if you haven't, but I definitely would say recommend it. But Clayton Bigsby was a blind guy played by Dave Chappelle who was black, but he didn't know he was black. And because he was raised under, at the time, white people, he was hella racist, but he had no idea who he really was because he was blind, and he was part of the KKK and everything. And it's like, I'm not saying this is how far it is, and I'm not saying this is what these people are, but this is kind of how you've now taken on the persona of someone who's racist. And it's like, hold on, you do know that, truth be told, you are everything against, you're antithesis of what a lot of them actually do not want. But you want, but obviously they'll pretend like, yeah, you speak for the people. It's like, yeah, but if only you knew sometimes. Now, whether they do know and it's only there for their own advancement, I assume they're not dumb. I want to say that these people are not dumb. But when I hear the certain things which a lot of black conservatives do say, and again, I got to hold my hand up to certain things because I'm not innocent in this. I'm like, hold on, let's take a couple of steps back here and just really, really deep what it is that they're looking for. Really, really deep. What is it that it really means? What are the hidden layers if you can't already tell us to what it is that they're talking about? Listen, not everything is woke, people. You know, some things are just bad, some things are just bad fits. But yeah, when I hear this term being used nowadays, when I hear how it's being used, when I see really what it means, it's like you have an advert. And sometimes I do think that sometimes it's there just to, piss people off, which is kind of funny. But as you see a film, and now once you're clued into it, you realize the trigger points. I'll see a film, I'll see an advert, and I'm like, oh, there's another black person, oh, there's another black person, oh, there's another woman, oh, there's another brown person. And I already know what's gonna happen. People gonna start, oh my day, da, 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 da. I'm like, it don't take much. But again, like I keep saying, same people who say they don't see race, same thing people who say they don't see color, same people who say they don't see ethnicity, same people who say I don't see gender. I only see the best person for the job. But then I say, okay, then if all the barriers are open and all the barriers are equal, then surely could you not argue that we're seeing more things like this because they're maybe better for the job or maybe better suited? But that doesn't really go into the consciousness, because guess what? The status quo should be, well, actually, only a certain group of people should be fit for this job. Hence, with the sports punditry, Joe Barton's talking about, how can these female presenters be talking about football? How can these female presenters be talking about this? How can these female presenters be talking about that? And then in the same breath, people will be arguing, saying, well, football's a game of opinions. Okay, so are you telling me that this woman's opinion is not valid, equally as valid? And you have people down the pub saying the same thing. I'm like, but hold on a second. You've never played at this level. How can you talk about this? And yet she can't have an opinion. What's it based on if you don't see all this stuff? But it's purely based on the fact that they're women. And women can't have an opinion on men's football. I was like, what kind of BS logic is that? Especially considering, I said beforehand, you have the likes of, especially on like Talksport, Jamie O'Hara, Jason Cundy, Alan Brazil, especially Dean Saunders. All these guys chat absolute mess when it comes to football or anything else. And you can tell they don't even research. You can tell they don't research. You can tell they don't know what they're talking about. You can tell they don't know the subject matter. You can tell they don't keep themselves up to date with, I hate using this word, but modern day football in terms of how the progressions, the tactics, the formations, how teams are playing out from the back. Even if you don't like it, it'll be nice to actually hear exactly why teams do it. And it's very rare nowadays when I listen to football that I actually listen to any of these kind of pundits, Roy Keane, Graham Souness, and I hear something which I'm thinking, oh, that's interesting from a former player. And these are former players. Some of them are former great players. And yet it's very rare that I hear something from them, if they break down a game, I'm thinking, okay, that's something I can only get insight from a player. All of it is just cliche idioms, which anyone down at the pub would be saying. It ain't nothing deep. It ain't nothing that's really breaks it down in a way which I'm thinking, okay, that's the reason why. That's why when I was listening to I'll be fair here, when it comes to sometimes Gary Neville, Jamie Carragher, they are the best when it comes to breaking down tactical aspects of the game. When Gary Neal, the Wolves manager, was on Monday Night Football, how he broke down the game, but it's very rare that you see pundits, the ones who apparently are, the ones who should be there, they become gatekeepers of the situation anyway. But the ones that people say, yeah, 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 yeah. I'm like, most of you guys are terrible. But let a woman on there just say the exact same thing that you guys will be saying, all hell will break loose. But yet, apparently, it should be only the best person for the job. But I'm like, well, if they're saying the same thing that you guys are saying, then what difference does it make if it's a woman or a man? But we know why. We know why. But they say it's woke. They say it's this. Same with black pundits. Exact same thing. A couple of black pundits on there. Oh my days, oh my days, oh my days, oh my days, oh my days. I'm like, you got like 98% of white pundits, a couple of black pundits, and these guys are going absolutely crazy. Oh, this is diversity and inclusion. This is blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, okay, okay. So we know what it is then. We know what it is. We know what it is. We know what the game is. We know it's got nothing to do with what they're saying. It's got nothing to do with the message. It's all about the messenger, which is funny because I'm sure the actual line is don't shoot the messenger. And I'm sure the line is, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, people. But I'm sure it's not it's about, is what that person said correct? Do we not deal with the merits of somebody's arguments? Do we not deal with that? But no, we don't. What we're now dealing with is who's providing them arguments, who is saying it, which is kind of counterproductive to what apparently people argue that what they actually believe in. This is why I don't listen to them when they say this nonsense. It's like I go into just like, yeah, whatever. Whenever you guys say use these words, and whenever you say, oh yeah, but I really care about the integrity of it. I really care about yeah, bullshit. Bullshit. We all know what it's about. If you don't know what it's about, you do know what it's about now, and just look out for it. I mean, that's all I'm going to say. Look out for it. But I just had to come back here just to try and correct, let's say correct the records, just because when you just see through the BS and see for what it is, it's a lot of times it's like, look, everything ain't woke. Some things can be just bad. But when I hear the anti-woke agenda, I know what it's about. I know what it is. It's a play for the status quo. And some part of me don't even blame them for it. But just come on, say it. Don't hide behind this bullshit. But again, this is the cleverness of how things work nowadays. And people talk about cancel culture and all this kind of other stuff. All right, fine, 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 fine. But yeah, this is how it works. This is what the game is. This is what the play is. I know what the play is. I know what the game is. So yeah, whenever I hear this, it's just a load of BS, man. It's a load of BS. But yeah. Yeah, facts. Facts. This is a really great point here. The people using the term can't even articulate exactly what it means. Now, I wanted to get this clip, but I didn't get it for today. But Lawrence Fox on GB News was asked this question about what does it even mean, woke? And I swear down, when you listen to what he said, it was, he couldn't even articulate it. And this is a guy who went to, public school, private school, basically. This is a guy who went to a very, very, very rich school. I think it was, you know what I mean? I'm talking about 20,000 per term type school. I'm like, he went to it, and yet he couldn't. Now I say he couldn't articulate it, but the way how he tried to articulate it, I knew that he couldn't say what he wanted to say. So the way how he went around the fences, but he couldn't even articulate it because I knew what he wanted to try and say. But when he said it, it was a biggest load of waffle I've heard in a long time. Because truth be told, this, what it really means is this: if you want to just break it down to its finer parts, woke just means a situation where if it's not, and this is again, I gotta be fair, there's only a certain segment of the population who have these views, but for those that do apply, if it don't apply, let it fly. That's what they say, right? But this is what it means. If it's a situation which white men aren't represented, white straight men aren't represented, again, when it's in media, films, arts, or if it's not in the perspective of them being the main character in these situations, again, from things like entertainment, punditry, presenting, whatever it may be, that's what woke is. if a man is replaced, the classic line will be, "Oh, I bet they're going to get fill in the blank to replace him." A diversity hire. Why? Because they're the ones who have always had the power. And this is where I'm going to do a slight little segue, slight little segue, because bro, man, bro, you have pretty much nailed on what I was going to segue to. I ain't gonna lie to you. Pretty much going to segue what I was going to say, and how it is a reconstruction of the red pill rhetoric, because this is really where this is why the red pill resonates with a lot. Well, it was created a lot by white men, but it resonates with right leaning men, especially. Now, what's happened in the world is over the last, okay, 40 odd years, we'll call it that, is there's been a changing of the guard. There's been a change of the guard in a lot of aspects. A lot of things have been broken down when it comes to colonialism, segregation, apartheid, and the globalization of the world is sped up. But also, women rights have increased. So what has happened is the group that's held the most amount of power over the early parts of the 21st century and beforehand, they're now losing the grip that they once had. And now they're thinking, holy shit, um, our colonies have gone. They're independent now. We're no longer maybe the superpowers that we used to be. We're no longer the people who used to be. As a man, we don't have the rights over our women. They don't have the powers, or they have more power than what we used to have. We aren't the ones who are now the first in. We aren't the ones who have all this. So now it's become a completely different. It's become a movement against that, because they want to preserve or conserve what was once was. That's why they always want to harken back to the old days about traditionalism, because who had the power? They had the power. So what happens? Well, back in the day, divorce rates were this low, and yeah, that's because there was no choice for divorce. That's because divorce was it was socially unacceptable, but also constitutionally, women didn't have the power to be able to divorce. So if there was in a relationship which they wasn't beneficial or was an abusive relationship, the man was the one who would have the upper hand. So why would you want divorce? Of course you want that. It's like the slave and the slave master relationship. The slave master would disrespect the slave. The slave master would get all kinds of women pregnant. The slave master would do all kind of other things. But let that slave do one thing to the slave master. I guarantee that slave master would be acting like that slave has pretty much betrayed him. And it's the exact same thing when it comes to this situation here, when it comes to the whole, how I compare this anti-woke to the red pill rhetoric. They can do what they want to do. They can say what they want to say, but you let the other side do a tenth of the thing that they did. They'll try and say, I gave you everything. I did this. We did that. Da, 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 da. How could you? How dare you? Because they've got the power. But now, over the last sort of 60 plus years, power has shifted. People's roles in the world is different. People can't adjust. So people harken on to days which once was, which is they had more of the power. Hence why I had a lot of the red pill movement, if you really deep it. And it's so fascinating when black people go to it. I'm like, look, do you understand just how deep it really, sometimes you can really take it, but alas. But this is the same thing with the woke movement. Power's now shifted. There's a shifting of the guard, there's a change, and things look a little bit different. Whether it will stay that way, I don't know, but things look a bit different. Now it's like, honestly, like, oh, we aren't the first ones here. We haven't got the power here. We're not the ones who will be first in line for this job. We're not the ones who are naturally going to be the ones who are going to get this situation. Now what's going to happen? Now we don't like it. Now everything's woke because it's used as pejorative. Now we're going to say it like this. Now, again, there are some things I'm not with. There's some things I'm not with at all. But when you look at how things have progressed, and when you see a lot of the rhetoric attached to it, most of it is down to, let's just be honest, the way how things are, there's a power shift. There is a massive power shift that's taking place, and they notice it. They've been noticing it for a long time, but it's really staring in your face. There's a shift in mentality, there's a shift in power, there's a shift in a lot of things which people aren't happy with. There's got to be a fight back. There's going to be a response, and this is part of that response. This is part of that fight back. So when I hear again, all the like black conservatives latching onto some of these terms, latching on some of these words, sometimes I'm like, just know there's more to it than just saying having a black person being cast as Henry VIII is being woke. I mean, I get that. All right, fine, that's stupid. I get it's not just it's more than the surface level of saying a black woman being cast as Catherine Aragon. It's more to it than that. It's deeper than that. It's not just something so superficial like that, which you can easily point to and be like, yeah, okay, I hold my hands up. That's stupid. I hold my hand up. Yeah, I get it. It's deeper than that. It becomes evasive across everything. They didn't like it if it had when it comes to fictional characters. A fictional character, they don't like it if it's not like this. I'm like, it's a fictional character now, but again, you have to understand the play. It's just deeper than what people make it out to be. And this is where, for me, I just have to step back and say, okay. The word now has no meaning. The word now has just been polluted. The word has just been diluted. And this is what we have now, the term woke. So listen, everything ain't woke. It just ain't. It just ain't. It just ain't. Woke ain't even. If any come on, people need to come up with a new word nowadays. There'll be a new word coming out. There'll be something new. It's kind of losing its steam a little bit. It's still out there, but yeah, it's just mad. It's just mad. Um, but yeah, people, I've left the link in the chat in case you want to come up and just talk about this whole situation, or anything that you think I've missed. But I've left the link in the chat. I will pin it just so that. Yeah, here we go. So link has been pinned in the chat if you want to come up and chop it up and talk about what's going on here. So by all means, you can do. But yeah, I just had to come back just to address a couple of things and just talk about the just the funniness and the hypocrisy of when I see this word and how I see it implemented. That's kind of really where I should say it's how it's been implemented and what it really means. And when I hear certain things attached to it, I'm like, yeah, that's not woke. You just don't like that person because that person is a woman speaking on football, or you have too many black people speaking on football, or you know, what I mean, this. You can't have a woman lead in an action film. I'm like, if that was the case, you know what I mean? I think like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Anyone watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer? I mean, Serenity. We look at Resident Evil, Tomb Raider. It's like, bro, you know how many women leads? Action. These are action films, action, where women leads were there, and it's like, so it's not acceptable for that. But how is that acceptable? How is that not called woke? It's like now we've gone to a stage now where, okay, well, it's not about that. Then it's about everything else now. Then it's about everything that doesn't fit this narrative, this paradigm of what I believe status quo should be. Even though when it comes to art, listen, art pushes the boundaries of so many things. Now, whether I agree with it or not, that's another thing. But come on, to say that, that's woke. That is. Well, do I believe that? I mean, I don't know. Do you believe in vampires? Do you believe in elves? Do you believe in all these magic powers? Do you believe in all these Marvel films that's been released? All these DC films that's been released? Is that real? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It's like when you really look at these films, and I assume these are classics. Again, Buffy the Vampire Slayer was a classic. So Aliens, female lead. It was what's her name? Her name will come back to me. I can see her face. Sigourney Weaver, that's the name. She was a action hero. It's like, come on, man, come on. We're acting like these things have not existed beforehand, and this is like this new phenomenon. It ain't. It ain't. It's just the culture surrounding it was different because sometimes, and I say this, people weren't deep in it that way. Is it a good film? Is it not a good film? It could be a good film despite there being a woman lead, or it could be a bad film in spite of there being a woman lead. It could just be whatever. It could be a bad plot, but it's not just because, oh yeah, I know why it's failed. I know why it's flopped. It's like, come on now. It's just madness. So yeah, when I see these films, yeah, listen. Buffy was a huge TV show over here too. Dark Angel was another one with Jessica Alba. That's how I first got caught on Jessica Alba. When I was younger, I used to watch Dark Angel. I think it was like 2 seasons, but Dark Angel was another situation where, again, woman lead action film. It wasn't like it was some sort of she was playing this dainty character. No, she was kicking ass and taking names. It's just like, again, all these TV series and all these things which were created because somebody had the balls to say, you know what, I'm gonna put this person in this particular role. You know, but nowadays it's a two-pronged sword, which I'm like, sometimes it can be overkill where, okay, if you want to have a film where it just has white people, you can do that. But some people are like, oh, but you can do that. Or if you want a film which has a mixture depending on how good the actors are, then you can do that too. But it's just like it becomes so polarized on both sides. It's incredible. It's crazy. But that's just how it is nowadays. And this is why a lot of times People think, oh, you must be on the left. Nope. Miss me with that nonsense. They do a lot of things which I do not agree with, as the right do a lot of things that I do not agree with. It's just that simple. And this woke nonsense, bruh, a lot of things I'm like, no, this ain't the case. Yeah, Matrix, classic example. Now granted, is not Neo was kind of the lead and Morpheus there as well, but you did have I forgot what Karen Moss's character was called. Flipping it, I completely forgot. What's the name? What was Karen Moss's name? Neo and someone in the chat. Someone in the chat saved me because I should know that. I don't know what her name was. But yeah. Darth Tempest, welcome. How's it going, bro? You're on mute if you can you hear me? Oh, Trinity, that's the one. Trinity, flipping heck. How did I forget it? Darth, I'm gonna drop it down because you got no sound. No sound. I can't hear you. So if you are speaking, I can't hear you at all. So let me know if everything's all good in the back chat. All right, cool. But yeah, man, it's just this term now, man. It's been overused. It's been plagiarized, been bastardized, and truth be told, a lot of it is really people who do not have views and ideologies which aligns with sometimes just the existence of certain groups in certain spaces. Is another way of trying to gatekeep certain things, which I thought the idea nowadays was to remove gatekeepers. This is why, especially nowadays with social media, with when it comes to so many things which they had gatekeeping for, which they didn't exist anymore because of social media. I'm talking about when it comes to direct conversation with the consumer, when it comes to printing, publishing, when it comes to interacting with fans. Social media is an outlet where you don't even need necessarily people to analyze maybe if you a game, movies. You have a community, sets of communities which you go to. It's kind of it's taken away a lot of gatekeeping. Even when it comes to film ministries now, you don't really have to go to the cinemas and the studios X in the same type of way because of how everything is disseminated. Now you can do it in a completely different way. So with that being said, you just like people get so cranked and hooked up about certain things. I'm like, well, hold on. Yeah, no, that ain't it. That ain't it.
Testing, can you hear me? Testing, can you hear me?
I can just about hear you. You are low though.
Oh shit! Hold on. Let me just. About that one. Testing.
That's a bit better, actually. Say something else.
That's a
Say
bit
something.
better. That's better, right? You can hear me there, correct?
Yeah, I can hear you. So if you hear me in the chat, let them know. If you don't hear me in the chat, let them know. But I hear you loud and clear.
That's good. That's good, man. Why it matters? Well done. Thank you for coming back to this stream as well. We needed a voice like yours as well.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks.
You've been missed in this channel as well because a whole lot of things have been happening. We needed a much more a counterbalance argument and all that stuff. And I knew you know your politics and you know where you lie and all that stuff. Yes, and then you have a whole bunch of people in a certain type of way, but you're a man of your word and you stick to what you know and what you see as well. So it has annoyed me that I have seen. That's why I actually stopped watching TV. I've literally stopped watching so much British television or any types of media just because of the amount of bullshit that I see on the media. Like I can see that you don't want to expose yourself to that amount of stuff you want to whittle through. You don't want to expose yourself to that amount of rubbish. So I've completely stopped watching TV, and now I just my only piece is TikTok or anywhere else I can find other alternative forms of media as well. Because the agenda is so insipid, the agenda is so deep and entrenched, and all that in the way we speak around the country as well. It's a culture. It is different. They have considered it a culture war, and you have to take it. These people take threats very seriously. They take threats
No,
very
you're right. You
seriously.
know, and I didn't say this, but do you know when I look at things that are going on in the world, people, it's like I was going to talk about the war in Congo, which is crazy. um, and things like that, which it's all about resources and money. And we look at the vested interest in because the Congo supplies has so much natural resources which we need for phones, energy supplies. Because now everyone's trying to go renewable. So many things are going on like that. But all of a sudden now, this culture wars is like the biggest thing that we need to get rid of. And I'm like, hold on, are we serious now? so, so sometimes I agree with you. I switch off when I hear these things. I'm like, as if that's the biggest problem to mankind right now.
Yeah,
These
and
agendas as opposed to what's going on.
it's funny how it has seeped into the mainstream discourse as well, even all the way down to the BBC. One of the people I like is Piers Morgan. Piers Morgan. Ah, I hate that guy. Anyway, never mind. You know what I mean? That guy, you understand? So he has seeped into the mainstream right now. And nowadays, I'm even cautious of some of my would-be friends that, some of even my black friends will even want to use that word, But as soon as I hear that, I just like, I'm sorry, man, you're not at my level, bro. So if you can't see that this is a whole lot of bullshit, I'll deal with you from a certain angle. You understand what I mean? I'll deal with you from your level of understanding as well. But if you want to run with it, run with it.
Let me ask you this then. So, what do you think about when you hear the term woke now? What do you think? Has it changed from maybe a few years back to now? What you
For me,
think?
for me, it hasn't changed. For me, it hasn't changed. As well, it has changed in terms of how people have defined it and what the zeitgeist is on about and all that kind of stuff. Because like now, the zeitgeist has changed, similar to the word Pan-Africanism. It's the same effect that took for Pan-Africanism. Now, Pan-Africanism, it's all about kumbaya, all about this and that. Oh, people want to come together and all that kind of stuff. But Pan-Africanism came from a position of Africans wanted to gain independence and freedom and all that stuff around the world. And they did produce results. They set African nations politically we're free. Economically, the battle is still on and all that stuff. So, but they have managed to turn that word into Pan-Africanism to be some kind of kumbaya and everything. So it's a case of malignment of the word. You malign the word enough, you lie about it enough, it becomes the truth.
No,
you know what is a logical fallacy. That's the type of argument style that they use, logical fallacies.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's like a paradox that they use to to try and justify the arguments, but actually it doesn't make any sense. It can't exist at the same time. Yeah, no, I hear you.
They will say something logical about something, but it's got nothing to do with the main topic. You understand?
Yeah.
They will go and say, "Oh, this, that," and it sounds logical to your head and all this. I think, hey, I think that's right. I don't, but what has it got to do with the main with the main talk? You see, this is how they go about things, and it's personally, I hate lies and all that stuff. So this woke agenda, has it changed? It has changed in terms of what's going on in the zeitgeist, and I think we kind of are losing the culture war because they were more sensitized to it than we were.
Yeah, and again, I always say this because I think you said it right. Misalignment of the word, because originally when it all took off, I understood it to be okay. Then it's more of an agenda which is being forced in terms of
being conscious of social injustice, being conscious of the social inequities, and all that stuff. That's all.
That was originally what it was called, and then once it took off and it was misaligned, now it became the case of now it's a pejorative term. It's used as a word to denigrate people, as opposed to being socially aware of what's going on. Now it's a case of you must be part of this, like I said, zeitgeist agenda, which is part of the replacement theory, which is part of, anyone who doesn't look a certain way or anything like that at all across so many spectrums. It's unbelievable. Which I'm like, I can't really be bothered with dealing with all this mess because it's just not what it is, and it's been hijacked. And here we are now.
100%. 100%. I mean, if you can look at it, even as I say, Suella Braverman, the fact that she quoted that word wokarati, all right, whoever like that. So now it's that kind of like Oxford, Cambridge type of speak and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of a word in contempt of like politically educated leftists and all that stuff. So you call them wokarati. So she coined that word. There's the word woke and there's the word wokarati. All that stuff. So it's something that you know what I mean. It's like as soon as you put that something arati, that suffix arati or something, it captures them. It's supposed to be in contempt as well. As soon as I heard the word, I said, "This girl is this woman is something else," and all that. Yeah, I mean,
And
but
the thing is,
yeah.
you know what kills me is that, do you know, now it's, and I'm saying, I don't know if you caught it, but she's used a lot of time as a way of getting her to say things which people know, she's the perfect face to say it.
Mm.
And I don't know if she's almost used to try and almost keep you people in line, because if you say it, and this is what I was saying about how a lot of, especially like black and even brown conservatives, and how a lot of them are in that sort of spectrum where they would almost, I don't know if they're, I don't want to use the word plants, I hate that, but
Mm.
a lot
It
of them
gives
on the,
them.
a lot of them are used, or a lot of them will say these things which I'm like, okay, you do know what exactly what they're trying to get you, or you do know what's actually what you're saying, or what the actual underlying meaning is, and how your people are actually part of the same problem that you're now criticizing. It's like, you do know that you're part of the issue. It's like, what? But I don't know. When I
It,
hear
it,
Pretty
it gives
Patel,
them
Swada
that.
Brahman, sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go finish what you say.
No, but when I was hearing Pretty Patel before her, Swada Brahman, and it's like, you're using words, and your because the word karate is not just a pejorative, but it's used in a kind of a way which almost incites
Yeah.
um people to think, oh,
Yes.
these people are evil, these people are wrongdoers, these people are, you see what I mean? It's a whole nother meaning, which I'm like, hold on, whoa, whoa.
That's what it's supposed to mean. I mean, when you listen to it, when say woke karate and all that stuff, that particular word itself, like there's woke and there's woke karate. There's like, what it says is there is there's the universities or education institutions and all that kind of stuff that have kind of been quite left wing for a certain type of years, for a certain number of years as well. Like, you'll hear a lot of people say universities are quite left wing these days.
Yeah,
They don't give space for, like, they don't give open space for other different ideologies or right wing ideologies. They're quite left wing and all that kind of stuff. And if you go all the way to Oxford and everything, they're extremely left wing. So she used that word to kind of capture that as well. That left wing educated people as well, who are not in touch with reality, who are not in touch with things on the ground, with the local people. You see, the Wokarati type of people are not in touch with the local folks. You
I know.
understand?
Yeah, no, completely. And I was reading an article which is funny, because I guarantee people on the right would not be addressing this. It's people on the left who would address it, because, you know, they're all the workerati. But um over over here we've had a massive spike in energy prices, as you know, and British Gas has raked in profits of from 72 million to 751 million in just 1 year. And all the
Yeah.
left wing people are like, hold on a second, that's a hell of a big spike of profit. Now that should trigger like corporation, like windfall tax, because they've earned such a massive additional revenue that is just unheard of. It's more than, it's like 10x it. But I'm like, people on the right, they love that kind of stuff, because that, according to them, that's profit, that's privatization, and that's all these kind of other things. While people are freezing, trying to heat their homes because the prices have gone up the roof.
Mhm.
And for a bit inside information here for people that needs to know, that a lot of these energy prices that have gone up to the price it has, it won't be coming back down to pre-COVID levels until at least in the 2030s. Honest to God, 2030s, you're going to see your prices relatively come down to the same level of prices that it was beforehand.
If they will ever come down as well with
If they
this
would
kind
have,
of
yeah,
stuff,
absolutely.
they never come down as well. People, they expect people to get accustomed and accumulated
Yes,
or
yes.
accustomed to that, and it remains the same way for a long time as well. But I was in a barber shop today, and somebody was just telling me, yeah, there's no middle class anymore as well. Right now, it's just the rich and the poor as well.
Yeah.
That's what's happening. The money has been siphoned off. As well, when you see a whole lot of people in the middle class are struggling, you understand? So it's people have fell and been duped for a certain kind of discourse as well. You see, they mix it with everything. Every topic is woke, 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 woke. With every topic is woke. It's a woke people's fault. It's a woke people's fault.
See, the thing is, it, it's true, you know, and it's and it's funny because, again, the conservatives who say everything's woke, everything's about the woke, and it's like you've been in charge of this country since 2010, and we've seen record prices when it comes to fuel, food. We've seen recessions. We've seen how you've handled the pandemic. We've seen councils gone bankrupt, but yet and still everything's woke. Oh, it's because these woke left Labour council, they can't do this. It's like you've been cutting off finances. Everything's been swept on the woke. I'm like, hold on, whoa, time out, time out, time out, time out. But this is how the right wing. This is how they use. This is how these terms get misaligned, and this is how, like Pavlov's dog. Once you hear that word often enough, and it's been weaponized, it's like, okay, now the left have used the word woke, but now we're going to twist it and contort it, and now guess what? It becomes a whole. It becomes armed and becomes completely different, and now it's just
yeah.
Everything's
Of course, with like, I suppose the minority type of folks and all that stuff, the minority type of folks, the color type of folks that tend to actually adhere and use these words and all that kind of stuff, to the majority or something, or the silent majority as they would like to call themselves. Are they really silent? They say they're silent, but they don't. I'm not sure if they're silent. Yeah, the silent majority, as well, as they call themselves. They get the idea of plausible deniability as well, because they are not the ones saying it. So you can't blame me if it's racist because you got Suella Braverman saying it. You can't blame me if it's racist because you got this football pundit saying it. You can't blame me if it's racist because you got these black people from GB News saying it. You see what I mean?
That's the classic. It used to be, I have a black friend, therefore I can't be this. But you're right. Now it's morphed into, because this is what happens. They latch onto certain things, and because well, hold on, so and so from GB News and she's black, she says it. Therefore, I'm like, okay, so what? She's wrong. How about that? How about she's wrong? It's like, and it's still wrong. It's still maybe racist or sexist. How about that? How about that?
But it begs to question: who are they talking to? Really, which people are they talking to? Who are they talking to? When you have people like that speaking and all that stuff, they must think like everybody's completely stupid or something like that. But you have to think, like, who are they targeting their message to?
And I always think it's a, and this is weird. You use word silent majority, but I always think it might be a little bit of, again, a large section. You know what? It might just not even be necessarily far right people. It might just be disgruntled. This is what I'm going to say: disgruntled people. And this is where I had to balance myself out by saying there are certain things which I see, which does, I'm like, I'm not with it myself, and I get why people get a bit upset. And I think the way how, especially nowadays with media, and how all you need to do is trigger people with just a couple of examples or something, and you can get people to be so much more disgruntled, because life for a lot of people is not at its best. So if you can get these people who are disgruntled about their ordinary lives to be disgruntled about something so benign as a black person on TV more often than not, then this is how they can get everyone else who's just disgruntled. This is how I think it all works. If you can get disgruntled people who are disgruntled with their lives as is, and then they see, or how they perceive as,
you kind of like pivot and blame somewhere else for them as well, because they're very lazy to do it themselves. So you just said, you pointed that these are the reason. That's the people. That's the reason why your life is shit.
Absolutely. I was reading something, and I think it was a meme or something where, again, you got NHS waiting times, or NHS is crumbling. Rent prices are out of control. House prices are out of control. Energy prices are out of control. Fuel prices are out of control. But we're going to blame the migrants. But we're going to blame this. We're going to blame that. It's like, but this is what it is. This is how the shift and pivot works. Everything's out of control.
Not the fact that these people have not been building houses for years as well, to kind of like push down and put rent prices up. Why? Because the majority of their voters and people who hold property are conservative type of people, hold commercial property and hold large swathes of public property are still the conservatives as well. So they'll vote in their interest to put rent prices up, to squeeze people up and make more profit from people as well. And they have not built nothing.
Yeah, this is why you don't have, like you said, the middle class, because what's happening is everyone's being shunted out, and the middle class gets squeezed the most. And then it's like, the rich or poor, because everyone, it's like you can't afford anything. Everyone, and there's not enough houses being built or whatever it is, and boom, there it is. This is how you have two-party class. And again, shift and pivot, disgruntled people. Because let's be honest, if you don't have stability in your housing situation, stability in your food situation, and stability in other things like again fuel but those are the key things: housing and food, and obviously shelter. I
But I want
guarantee.
to ask you a question why it matters. I want to ask you. I'll take acknowledge to what you said. Let me just take acknowledge to that. Yes. To what you said. I forgot. I forgot it. I forgot it a minute ago. Like, yeah, there was something you said there. I forgot. I forgot to take note of it as well. But never mind. How do you feel? How do you feel when you see people closest to you as well? People closest to you, or people that you kind of, I don't know, maybe not give respect to, but you have some certain level of respect for them as well, falling for this nonsense. How do you feel?
I'll say this: I'll definitely be a lot more patient because I think this is probably how I am. I understand that. Do you know what? I was sometimes of an opinion which has evolved. It depends what it is, though. But for the most time, I'll be like this. This is how I would approach it. I'll try to understand their position. I wouldn't necessarily think anything less of them if that's what you mean. It'll be the case of, oh, really? You think like that? Explain my views because I've been in situations where I've tried to not get into heated conversations about certain topics now. I've learned my lesson over the years. So there's certain situations I won't probe. I'll just mainly just ask around and be like, okay, we disagree, because I know what's going to happen. I've been there. I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. But then I'll try and be like, okay, some situations I was there, thinking what you thought. So it might be as a case of you're just not there yet. That's how I sometimes try and frame it.
Yeah, exactly.
You're just not there yet, and you may get there. Now, there's some people who, unfortunately, Darth, as you would probably know in your life, they're just not going to get there because they're fundamentally they're zealots about the situation. But for a lot of people, I'm like, you're probably just not there yet. That's all.
And you don't have to go battle everybody. You don't have to go. Whatever. No. Yeah. Go
on. No. You said it right. Pick your battles.
Not everybody is there for you to correct as well. You're not supposed to correct everybody. You're not supposed to correct anybody around the world and all that stuff. You don't have that much time in your life to correct everybody with the multitude of ideas in their head as well. So, but it's quite sickening sometimes when. Well, is it sickening really? Is it sickening really? If somebody's at that level, then deal with them from that level and move on. Deal with them from that level and move on. Go about your life. The only time it becomes a threat is when it becomes a physical threat to you. But then again, that I guess that would be being docile and holding up, waiting and all. Now you can't fix anybody. You can't fix everybody. You just can't. You can't do that.
No, you can't. And no, I agree. And the thing is, I think this is part of the problem with some of the culture wars nowadays. Is that's what people are trying to do. People are trying to get people to convert people into their way of mind and have the same. It's like if you've ever met anyone who's like just become a vegan or a vegetarian or something, they're so happy to say, oh, you should be eating this because this is unhealthy for you, or you should be doing this because and they want to like convert you, and sometimes can get a little bit annoying and things like that. But it's like now everyone's trying to convert them into their ways as opposed to saying, look, this is why I believe what I believe, this is what I do, this is the results that I'm seeing. Just be the results so they can see it, and if they ask you, you can educate them.
100%. But have you noticed a different tactic in how they go about this thing? Right? Have you noticed, like, sometimes it is a bit over the top, the amount of woke stuff that you do get in the media, right? You do get a lot of over the top kind of stuff. Like me, I'm a historian and all that stuff. So I like whatever I watch, I like to be historically valid as well. It's like you're trying to purposely, intentionally piss people off. I'm sorry,
bro. This is it. This is what I mean. Where sometimes I'm like, are you trying to just purposely trigger people? Because this is actually not helping the case. It's like when I see obvious historical inaccuracies, which I'm like, what else? I saw a meme of, was it the Mayans? And I saw it was a group of black people. These are the historical Mayans. I'm like, no, it's not. Come on. Let's not do that. Let's not do that.
So I was like, it's not helping the case for the woke.
Yeah.
It's for the woke. You know what I mean? It's not helping the case. Like you're trying to intentionally piss people off. Like, who does this? Like, why are you going that far? Like the Romans. being black. I don't know about that. Yes, there's some black people in the Roman Empire, but they were not majority black and all that stuff. You know what it does? What it does is there's a sense where it denotes a sense of ownership and all that stuff. Like these people have no history of their own, so we have to include them into this other history so that they can feel included. But it's not just that they don't have any history of their own and all that stuff. Like Africans don't have any medieval history of their own or ancient history of their own, so we have to include them here. So it denotes a sense of ownership, and the roles and characters we play there are second class characters.
Yeah, exactly. Because and he raised a great point, and this is something I did want to talk about. And a lot of that is because it's like we almost try and validate our history in European history or validate ourselves in European history. It's like we don't need to validate who we are as a people in someone else's. We can do that all by ourselves. It's like I think with the amount of tribes and things in Africa, we could have had like a Game of Thrones ourselves, where you had tribes and into war battling for the kingdom and the thrones. It's like it could be on a level like that. I'm not saying do Game of Thrones, but you see what I mean? It's like there's so many stories, historical stories in which could be depicted, Musa Mensa, and all these kind of things which could be depicted in a way which would you won't need to lead credence to who we are as a people and aim it at the right way. But it's just like we try and validate ourselves. And I agree, it's almost like we're saying we don't have a history outside of being validated by, or our history is not validated until we connect ourselves with Europeans or Asians or whatnot. Like, come on now, that's not true. That's
No. Yeah, I get it. What I say is who is doing that himself? Who is doing that purposely, right? Because what it is, I don't know how to articulate this. I was between the left and the right. There's a funny video that I watched about the left and the right in America and how they treat black people and all that stuff. While the right wing are very harsh with black people and they punish them, the left wing like to get them to feel included into the system and all that stuff, so that they don't become rebellious and all. So they absorb you, or you identify yourself with the system, you identify yourself with the people that run the system. So you're not going to rebel against them. So you are perpetually like a slave and all that kind of stuff. While if you face direct confrontation, you're more likely to know, this is my enemy and it's different from me. But never mind. I don't want to speak into enemies and all that stuff. That's not what I'm trying to get at. What I'm trying to get at is what it does, what this does, it denotes a sense of ownership. Like they own us. We are minorities in their systems and all that kind of stuff. We are minorities and we play certain roles. No, that's not the case. Africa has its own history. The story of Mansa Musa traveled all the way from Mali all the way to Arabia. That could be made into a movie and all that stuff. And it's a whole bunch of black people and all that stuff. That's the black prestige, although I don't agree with Mansa Musa because he did some dusty stuff in terms of like spending and all that kind of stuff. But that is a sense of that could portray some type of glory as well. Black man going around and all that, showing all the wealth and pomp and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, but that's a sorry to say. But no, we have no history. We have to include it in the Vikings. We have to be included in this people. It's kind of a pity. It's a pity.
No, I agree. And there was a TV series which I didn't get around to seeing, but Noughts and Crosses it was on the BBC, your favorite TV broadcaster. But it was kind of reversed apartheid, where you had the black people were seen as the upper class and the white people seen as the lower class. And I was like, again, it's we always have to try and validate ourselves. I'm like, look, we can leave white people with their history alone, no problem. We can have our own, no problem. It's like it's just, yeah. I think it's how we see ourselves at the moment, Darth, which is the reason why you get this type of stuff.
Is it how we see ourselves, or is it how we see ourselves, or is it some people at the anti-woke brigade purposely doing things to instigate?
That's not a bad shout. I always think that. Oh, come on now, you do know what that's going to lead to, don't you? You're just doing it just to piss people off. I'm on that a little bit. Where who is it? Is it Henry VIII? Wife, Catherine Oregon was I forgot her name, was a black woman. I was like, oh no, why? It's going to be obvious that it's no way near could happen. But like Bridgerton was another one which got a lot of press because it had black people in it at the time where you wouldn't be there like that. You'll be either a slave or working class at best. You know what I mean? It's like, come on.
It doesn't do us any good. It doesn't do us any good.
And the thing is, I get that you can be, as an artist, you can have artistic expression, but there's certain things I'm like, for historical accuracy, but I'm like, if it's a mystical type thing, fine. But historical plays and shows and things, I'm like, come on now, come on.
Yeah. You understand? So I tend to question that as well. But I'm definitely on this. I'm not falling for this bullshit anti-woke, because in the left we have a word for them as well. Like if you watch much, at least much or left-wing media and all that stuff, left-wing, right-wing, whatever you want to call it, the truth at least and all that stuff. We have a word for these people. They are called the anti-woke brigade and all that stuff. They're called the anti-woke brigade. That's the term that's used for them. And they now, people are not falling for them anymore as well. Especially with the conservative, they can't use it anymore as well. You know what I mean? Politics seems to be shifting, but it's more centered right now in the country than it is entirely left wing as well. But most people, I know, 100% regret Jeremy Corbyn not voting Jeremy Corbyn and all that stuff. But anyways, never mind about that. But there are a lot of people are seeing through the bullshit as well and all that stuff. And if you get people like Shuela Brown pushing anti-wokeism and Priti Patel, everybody knows these fuckers themselves. Sorry, I'm sorry. These guys themselves, know they're telling a lot. They're chatting a lot of rubbish. They're chatting a lot of nonsense and all that stuff. They're chatting a lot of nonsense, and they're watching how the plebs believe them.
Yeah.
They're watching how many plebs believe them. You understand? They're chatting a lot of rubbish, but they know that the plebs. It's like what you said. Yes, there's those who are hardline right wing and all that kind of stuff, and they can see through that. They can tell that their pundits are they chat complete shite, gob shite. They can tell their pundits are chatting shite, but they like the agenda, so they will not complain. But it's those that are disgruntled on the left as well that may wanna, that are just a little slightly swingable as well. These are the ones that they target.
Absolutely. And this is what happens in anything. You'll always have people who are staunch on one side or the other, but there's a swingable ones. They're the ones which, again, how can I swing those ones? Just by triggering them or just by making it seem as if this is the right way. But that's it. It's the swingable ones which are are the ones which they do try and target, and it's just hilarious. And agree, a lot of people are seeing through the BS. I hope at least. And I think a lot of times the reason why this stuff comes, especially now when it comes to the political world, is because we're nearing an election and we know, well, I hope what should happen does happen, and they know the grip is they're losing the grip on things because they've had ample chances. We've seen what they've done. We've seen the state of affairs right now. So the only thing they can do, again, one thing that the right have been successful in doing when it comes to woke and culture wars, I don't know if you agree with this stuff or not, is when they love debating the left, because I will say this, the left, when they debate on these things, they don't articulate their position well enough to be able to win the debates. So they're very good at winning the debates when it comes to these one-on-one things, because I don't know who it is on the left. I think it's the same stupid people try and trigger people, but they seem to have stupid people on the left to articulate some of these points. And a lot of debates I see, I'm like, oh, come on. Except for when I see, I'll be honest with you, like Pearl or someone like that on Piers Morgan. Then it's like, oh, okay, well, she's stupid. So she loses every debate anyway. But a lot of times I do see a lot of right wingers when they debate the left wingers. There's always seems to be some stupid idiot on the left. And it's like they do seem to win a lot of the debates because sometimes they come up with a lot of logical points which the left can't seem to debate.
It's just like the passport bro movement, not passport bros, red pill community society, or the black folks that are into the red pill society as well. Black folks who somewhat may say your politics should naturally. I don't know. I'm not saying. Yeah, I'm not saying. Yeah, like, because your politics could be either conservative or it doesn't matter. As well, it doesn't matter. But for some of the black folks who realize the Republican Party for years and in terms of history have been against you and your development and all, so as the Democrats to a certain extent, but you have to be able to pick out nuances, like which parties have actually given you some gains in society as well. You should have to be able to pick out. And historically, looking at things, I don't know in America if that's been balanced, but in the UK, we can definitely tell there has not been the conservative that has given us gains in the country. In the UK, we can tell it has not been the right that has given us gains. In the United States, it's a mixed bag. That's why they can be like that and all that stuff. But my point is, some of these black people and all that stuff, they have fallen for the game and all that, like Just Pearl and all that. She's not black, obviously. She's not black, but she's quite controversial and all that stuff. But I'm trying to say, some of these people who have fallen for the red pill kind of talk and all that kind of stuff, and they've been kind of dragged along and swept along with the anti-woke agenda, swept along with the Republican agenda, swept along with the right-wing agenda to follow that trend and all that stuff. And they don't know they're doing it to their own detriment.
Absolutely. And I think this is where sometimes you ask me, how do I deal with somebody who believes this kind of stuff? What do I do? And the reason why I have a bit of patience,
because I know you have friends like that. Don't trust me. I know
yeah. But you know the reason why though?
Because the thing is, I think this guy, his mind is right, bro. Like what? Then how is he managing his relationships and all that stuff? It bugs me.
But you know the reason why though? And I think a lot of our people come from conservative overall, at least compared to the West, conservative nations, especially when it comes to religion and practices. So I think when we come over here and our parents will teach us the ways, it is more conservative than necessarily than left wing. Not all, of course, but I think majority of us walks in the main are more conservative. So that's where I think we try to say, oh, well, we must be conservative politically. And then I'm like, well, hold on. Our conservatism should be different, but it's not. It almost becomes intertwined. And this is where they get dragged along with everything else, because I do believe that they do have more of a conservative mind about them, but they get dragged along with everything else. And then it's like, well, you do know that you actually don't understand that they don't like you because part of their conservatism
and that's where the logical fallacy falls in as well. So here you have a situation where they will speak about gay rights. I'm sorry. I will speak about the relationship between men and women, how it should be in the family. And for some of us who come from conservative backgrounds, oh yeah, they must be talking right and all that kind of stuff. But you don't know what you're really signing up yourself for. You know what I mean? So you sign up yourself for this topic on the discussion around the rights of men and women and all that stuff, or the role of men and women in society. But then it's been hidden and clouded under this other talk that's been hidden under thing that is against your interest. And people don't have the nuance to see that.
And you know what? It reminds me so much. And I did a video on this about how this is how, I don't know what it is, but then we become infiltrated with certain situations. And it's like, oh my days, how did this happen? And it's because I use this expression, you let the fox in the hen, or I say the expression that's commonly used, you let the fox in the hen house. And it's purely because you're like, yeah, we're on the same wavelength. And then it's like, well, actually, they're on a whole different agenda. And then you're thinking your two agendas are aligned. Well, actually, nope, I got a completely different agenda. And for some reason, how did you not see this? But yeah, it's like they come along for a ride, and it's like they're taking you for a ride, and now they've got everything that they needed from you, and now, whoop, there it is. So it's crazy.
But you should expect that people will be smarter than that. You should expect that Africans or black people in general should be smarter to not fall for that kind of nonsense and that kind of talk as well, right? No matter how much you try to say, oh, we are the same, man. You and me were the same against this agenda. That's the topic here. It's not about black and white. You're not black. You're not white. It's not about that. It's about this. You get me? It's especially another word that's used, these dickheads and all that stuff. It's not about race. It's about class. It's about class and all that kind of stuff. It's not about race. It's about class. Not fucking denying the fact that class and race are so attached and interlinked with each other.
And that's the cleverness of it. This is how, you know, when you say how did they get what do we call it, duped, how did they get fooled? It's because sometimes the cleverness of it, because again, the way how it works is they can use people who look like you. It's like, well, hold on, see, we like that person because that person says what we say. So it's not about race, it's about class, or it's about belief system. It's like, well, actually, it's about both, but it's interchangeable at so many different times. But you're right, it's it is funny. It can become so much complicated, and at the same time, yeah, I understand how people can get just absolutely fooled by a situation, and that's why sometimes even I have to like reevaluate everything and like, okay, let's take a step back, reevaluate. Was I wrong here? How have my thoughts evolved? Why has it evolved? Or what am I seeing? I'm like, yeah. So
Where
with this
have
whole,
why matters? Can I? Where have you noticed the narrative changing or the kind of conversation shifting as well? Where have you noticed, and how have you come to this sense that you feel the narrative is shifting, and it's like taking this turn? And why has it triggered you so much to make a YouTube thing about it?
do you know what it is? I think it's just a case of two things. So do you know when again, I don't know how much you caught of it, but when I was listening to people talk about certain agendas, again, agendas, zeitgeist, and I'm hearing this so much now with everything. And it's something for me, something as small as something small as when I listen to people slag off certain black films, black artists, black pundits, black presenters, and things like that. I'm really deep in it and thinking, hold on, but when you're talking about this other person who's not black presenter, white presenter, who has who is unbelievably terrible, I notice you don't use that word, you use a different type of word, or you phrase it differently, or you have a different viewpoint. But they're one of the same, in my opinion. If you believe that person's that way, then you should believe the other person that way. So what's the difference? And then it kind of takes me down the rabbit hole. I'm like, okay, now I know exactly what's morphed, what's changed. Now I understand this. And then once I actually, instead of listening to what they say, but actually just ignore it, look at myself, look for what it is, and then I really realize what it really is. I'm like, okay, this is how I got to the stage where I got to. I'm like, I'm listening to what you're saying. I'm hearing what you're saying. I'm hearing how you treat that person, and it ain't the same. And yeah, it led me down here, and I was like, yeah.
Do you
I'm out.
even
I'm
realize
out.
how do you know how insipid it has gotten even to across political debates? Some people will
Yeah.
argue for political ideas that it's like shooting yourself in your foot and all that stuff. Like they don't understand the ideas themselves, but they will argue for ideas that's like it's against your own interest. You're shooting yourself in the foot and all of that. And I have seen that so far, and I've made my goal to set down to completely destroy those ideas entirely. Anybody that comes up for those ideas, I'm ready to attack them straight away and all that kind of stuff. So I'm sorry,
You know
that's why
what?
you
You
find it.
remind me of, again, do you know when you say that? It's like I don't know why the first thing came to mind was Pearl on like Piers Morgan, and how she's fighting for and this is what kills me. As a woman, why would you fight for rights to, or why would you fight for your rights to be taken away? Because that's essentially what she fights for. A lot of her views, at least or how she purports the views of men that she talks with, it wants to take away your rights for freedom. So I'm like, why would you want that? You won't have the rights to be able to have your own autonomy. And like, what human being on planet Earth would ever fight for their rights as of autonomy to be taken away? It's like, who would do
100%.
that?
100%. As
It's
for
like,
me, as for me, I wouldn't argue against Joe Pearl because she's fighting for my rights and all that stuff. So I wouldn't go against her.
no, you've said that. You've
But
just
she's
said it.
going
This is
against her
why.
own rights. She's going
Thank you.
against
And
her
this is what
own
I
rights.
see. That's how I see a lot of like Swada Brahman, Pretty Patel. It's like, of course they're not going to say anything because you're fighting for my rights, but do you know that you're fighting against your own rights? You see what I mean? It's like, it makes no sense.
So these people are like that. Yeah, they're very fascinating people. So obviously, these people don't live in the kind of they live in a temporal plane. It's about time and the time and place as well. So whatever they get in at that time, it's what matters. Nothing else matters and all that kind of stuff. You know that whatever they get in, whatever benefit they're getting from this, some people it could be money, views, whatever they could be growing their platform, whatever they get in, that's what feeds them as well. So they
Do you
don't
know what
care
it is though
about
as well,
anything else.
Dov? You know what it is as well? And I do believe they believe this. I think they believe that they will be protected. Do you know how you have people
Yeah. That's true.
who have engaged in so much horrific crimes, who are, and it's like they've sold out their own people, for lack of a better word, and they've been protected. I do believe that somehow they believe that they're the exception and they're the ones who are going to be protected because I fought for you, therefore I should be protected, even though you might be sent to the same pit that everyone else in your people who you tried to fight against was. You see what I mean? I do believe that's the reason why. I do believe they think.
Let's bring it into a more 100%. Let's bring it to a more realistic and logical view. If you fight for the powers that be, they will protect you.
Well, I think this is what I think. I think once they've got what they want from you, then it's like, well, there you go. Well, that's what I think because
There's that.
you're there
Yeah,
as a tool, aren't you? You're there just to as a tool because until you're not needed anymore, and then it's like you're one of them again.
but in the meantime, they will protect you 100%.
Oh yeah,
They'll
of
they'll
course.
upload you. They will lift you up to the ground, to the grand scheme of everything. They will lift you up. They will raise your hands up on all that stuff. They will protect you, and that's what you get time after time after time. You are rewarded for sharing disingenuous information. You're rewarded for sharing disingenuous opinions. You're rewarded for sharing opinions depending on all this. So they are reward. They are actually rewarded. You understand? So if you're not rewarded, at least you're not criticized or challenged to a certain extent. Why? Because the powers that be, or the silent majority, as they say, entirely support you as well. So there is a sense of reward, there's a sense of protection, and all that stuff that these people get. In fact, the left feel more on the have to run on the cover a lot more than the right. The left are actually having to do things more on the private. Why it matters you if you change your whole thing and you started taking on that topic, man, you'll be something else somewhere else right now. But anyway, I don't know.
Well, I've been
You get
thinking
what I'm
about
saying?
I've been
Yeah,
thinking about pivoting. I might have to do it on a separate channel and really doing it properly for real. But I think
uh,
about it. We'll
Yeah,
see.
so there's a sense that you get like that if you take on certain topics and you bring on certain topics and you push them, you will all of a sudden see a whole bunch of people attracted to your channel, and they're giving you donations. They're pushing more because
Oh,
you're pushing the agenda.
oh
You're
yeah.
pushing the
Oh,
agenda, so they help you with donations. You attract a whole lot of them into your because you're helping them.
do you know what? Do you know what? That's the fastest way that I've seen black people grow their channels nowadays. And there's quite a few of them, and they have the same viewpoints that aligns with them, and they get praised up to the hilt when it comes to certain
Where do
things.
you think all the money is coming? The money is coming from those who have money, from the ones who have money. The money is coming from the powers that be. You're saying things that they agree with to core, and you can grow your channel that way as well. You understand? So, but I'm just saying, it's up to you. The life is a game to play and all that stuff. So I
Do
don't
you know
believe.
what?
I know you. I don't believe you're that type of guy. You're a
The
guy
thing
with
is,
integrity. You're a man with
this is
integrity.
this is gonna make me sound a bit weak as well, you know. But there was a couple of just a couple of videos that I did, and I didn't like it where the direction it was traveling. It was more red pilly stuff.
Mm.
It was just the thing is, it was just a response to the whole bust up that took place a couple of years back with Fresh and Fit and Abram Preach, and I just didn't like the energy that I got from a lot of things. I was like, you know what, let me pivot because I couldn't. For me personally, it's like I can't. I don't know what it is, but it's something about maybe it's just my weakness. I can't game the system where I believe doing that is the right thing to do unless I actually believe it. You see what I mean? So yeah. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. There's certain
fresh
things
and
which I'm like, nah. I can't. I can't do that. I can't do that.
I say there's a the left are always very slow to changes, and they're always slow to cultural change, but they are starting to pick up momentum and all that stuff. And every time the right push, it always seems like it swings the other way. So the argument is becoming stronger on the left and all that stuff against this anti-woke brigade and all that kind of stuff. Even my friend Zulia here, to a certain extent, he's a very intelligent guy and all that stuff, and he knows exactly what's up. He just has a thing against Africans. He
Yeah,
just has a
you,
thing against Africa, state guy. But he definitely can't see through a whole lot of bullshit. The guy can't see through a whole lot of bullshit. But he sees the bullshit when African leaders themselves do the bullshit. You see what I'm saying?
mate. Honestly, God, there's so many African nations that I feel sorry for because the leadership is, oh my gosh, it is woeful at best, and that's being polite. They are just they're killing the people, man. They're killing the situation, and it's horrible. It's horrible. But
It's not good, man. It's not good. But I'll tell you, my friend, like, stick to your guns, stick to what you believe in, and all that stuff, and you'll attract a whole lot of different people. Like you've got some new, I guess, left-wing media platforms such as Maximilian Robespierre. You've got Navarro Media. You watch Navarro Media and all that stuff in Britain.
I do actually tune out, look out for him. I know Maximilian Robespierre and Navarro Media, so I do watch. The thing is, I do like to also watch sometimes the other side. It can be a bit both sides really, because again, how I see myself is more centered, and this is it. With certain things, just because of just what I see, the BS on both sides. But yeah, I do watch those. I'm aware of those channels and those media outputs.
Yeah, I would say the same thing for myself. I'm not entirely because there's sometimes where being conservative or something. If you have something
Yeah.
of value to conserve, yeah, it does have merit. It does have merit. So I do tend to listen. Some of my friends who are into politics and all that stuff. Some of them are right, some of them are left, and all that kind of stuff. You understand? So I have to deal with. But you get tired of the bullshit. This anti-woke wokerati. Who made up that word? Like, think about it. Wokerati. The fucking wokerati. The educated left. Fuck you. I mean, sorry. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
That's how they do it. It's a pejorative term now. They've made it into a term which it's a cuss word now. So what people call you is, "Oh, you woke," and it's like, what? Say what?
You must be
you
part of the wokerati.
just because you like, well, that's BS. That's BS.
Yeah.
It's like, but it's another one of those things where if you're not part of this group, and this is what kills me now, if you're not part of this group, I'm gonna call you something. I'm gonna call you part of the wokerati. I'm gonna call you a simp. I'm gonna call you a blue pill beta male. You know what I mean? It's like, if you're not part of this group that you're in, I'm gonna make up a term that makes you lesser than. I'm gonna call you a pick me. I'm gonna call you this. I'm gonna call you that, or I'm gonna call you. If you're not a pick me, I'm gonna call you something else. I'm gonna call you a old use hoe. You know what I mean? If you're not part of this group, whatever group it may be, I'm gonna call you something else. I'm like, oh my days, just seeing through the BS. It's just
Yeah, that's what I told you. I stopped watching TV, but let's get down to it. Like, to what extent are you seeing that the mainstream media is falling for it, like the BBC? How often are they for the BBC, the Channel 4? Well, Channel 4 has always been like that, even since the days of what do you call it? What's that show again? Benefit Street. You remember Benefit Street?
Yeah, I do remember Benefit Street.
You remember when the conservatives came with that nonsense and all that? I put it all over screen, blaming Benefit. These guys are dickheads. These guys are dickheads, man. So they blaming us. They blaming us for the fuck ups and all that stuff. They blaming the poor people. You are poor because of your fucking self. And everybody fell for it. You know why? Why did we fall for it? Why did we fall for Benefit Streets?
Do you know what? Yeah, I was watching something who said this. It wasn't Benefit Street, but it's like, people will get you mad at somebody who is on benefits, who's probably getting what, £50 every 2 weeks or something stupid like that.
Yeah.
As opposed to, let's say, Google, or Amazon, who are taking billions and not paying any tax. Yet the conservatives want you to believe that it's these people on the street who are on benefits, who are the reason why all my money's going. I'm paying for all you and your kids to be holed up here, not doing anything, as opposed to you have these massive corporations who billions, and they don't pay because of a technical loophole. And it's like, but that's not your problem. The other problem's over there. It's like, come on now.
So it's quite interesting how that we fall for this insipid kind of culture that they've built over. So it's because it's a culture war. So they've built it, all using television media and all that, and built it, and then everybody became angst again about benefits scroungers. So everybody's scrounging off benefits. Who the heck wants to live in benefits and all that? Who wants to be using benefit? Nobody wants that degradation. Nobody wants to be that. But never mind and all that. So it's quite interesting. They built a culture, and it's the same kind of thing that's taking effect. They build up a fervor. A culture around anti-wokeness and benefits and all that kind of stuff, and it just gets all people up in arms and all that stuff. So it's a whole lot of bullshit, and the TV media falls for it all the time. Why do they do that? Why? Because it's interesting for them to actually propagate that as well, because it's an interesting show and all that stuff. It's what's in the zeitgeist at the moment, so they present it to get views.
Well, again, this is it really, isn't it? And if I can misdirect you to believe this is a problem or the problem, because two things can be true at the same time. That is a problem, don't get me wrong, but then this is another problem which is 10 times bigger. But it's a misdirect, it's a redirect. So this is how it happens. And the thing is, this will trigger people a lot more. If I see people out here not caring about going to work and just almost profiteering off their laziness, you know what I mean? It's like, that's the thing, isn't it? And
that's true. Yeah, that is the misdirect action. So instead of telling the real truth of what's actually happening, instead of telling the real truth of what it's really occurring as well, you misdirect people to something. Misdirect people to something and point them. This is the reason. This is the reason why the country is doing bad. This is the reason why everything is changing around you and all that stuff. Instead of pointing people to the real causes as well.
That's it. I mean, that's how they keep themselves in power, isn't it? So, or what else would you do, eh? What else would you do? That's how they keep themselves in power. All these, and this is the thing, all these culture wars are just a diversion to what really is going on a lot of times. And so yeah, it's how it
Yes,
happens.
yes, another one. Yes, the male gender war, the gender wars. That one. You remember that one? The gender wars.
Remember, it's still going on.
You think the gender wars. I think women, you can't live with them. You can't live with. It doesn't fucking matter, really. Like, why have black people taken this agenda to be as if we ain't got no other problems in our communities? Why do we have to take in problems that don't belong to us and all that stuff? We've got far more deeper problems as well. You see what I'm saying? But black people have taken the agenda, the men and women, and they've run with it. And it's just back and forth, men and women as like this. And it's kind of morphed into something else. Yes, you can make logical truths of it, but you know what I mean? It's a logical fallacy. It's like you tell a truth, you tell something logical that kind of keeps you away from what's happening. You see, that keeps you away from the real truth. So we've fallen for a whole lot of shit these couple of years. And I'm sorry to say, there is a lot of panelists, or not panelists, but it's a lot of YouTubers that actually ride with the agenda. They've ridden the agenda so far, and I'm very ashamed of it.
Listen, you can get paid, or I say get paid, but yeah, you can really blow up your channel with certain things. It's just mad. You blow up your channel by saying these things. If you just know it's like a gospel, isn't it? If you know the gospel of this, and you can just rehash talking points and do it in a certain way, you get the algorithm. It's sort of dying down a little bit now, though. I will say it's sort of dying down in that how it used to be. So a few years back, it was peak. I mean, it was everywhere. Now I think people are kind of seeing through the BS, and not just that, they're seeing through the BS of the people who are spouting this nonsense too, and it's sort of not having the same impact because, well, a lot of these things are just hypocrisy. I'll be honest, a lot of these arguments they make are just hypocrisy. So it's just like, how can you tell me one thing but you're doing the next thing? It's just, yeah, a lot of things have just lost the power, the sting that it used to have. I think it's nowhere near the same.
It's funny because it also took the same effect in the Pan-Africanist space as well. It's the same thing that occurred. You have a lot of people who are anti-Pan-African just shown up, and they've kind of used the word Pan-Africanism to mean some kind of kumbaya stuff, that it's all about loving each other and all that kind of stuff. When in reality, when Pan-Africanism was applied, it's a kind of when it was applied in Africa, it was like for freedom, for to have independence against colonialism as well. Number one, both neo-colonial and colonialism, but one battle was won. That was political freedom. We won that as well. But economic freedom, that the battle is still going on that one as well. In America, it showed itself. Pan-African showed itself in the terms of civil rights movement. The civil rights movement for black people to gain more equality and all that. So some people disagree with the results and all that stuff, but black people can vote now as well. They fought for it, people died for it as well, and all that stuff. So it's a lot of the independence movement across the world. And these movements connect African peoples together. And at least, even though we're not from the same nation states, at least we have solidarity with each other's struggles. To the extent that even other races can even have a solidarity with us because they live the same experience as well. That's what Pan-Africanism is. But now, and they say it's not achieved because the Black Panther came out and the diaspora, Africa must all unite. Of course, we all understand that we must actually put things on the ground. And that's what was achieved. You know what I mean? You cannot make your community better unless you improve yourself as well. So everybody understands that and all that stuff. But they have been maligned so much because of how overzealous some people can be. And they say Pan-Africanism is like this and it's like that. It's all about happiness and all that. So it's been maligned on the airwaves. And I made a stream about that yesterday and all that stuff. I made a stream about that. And I'm gonna keep making a stream about that. This is the strike back and all that kind of stuff. This is the return
Yeah,
of
no,
the.
no. Listen,
Yeah.
I'm on my sub to your channel. Is your channel Daft Tempest? Is it actually just Daft Tempest?
I'll tell you my channel. Like right now, I went deep into the depth of space to begin something from there and all that kind of stuff. Because I'm trying to grow silently and slowly and bring a couple of people because I know my kind of people and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
I wanna discuss with them to do when we go into these debates, we have to know how to talk and all that kind of stuff. Because the problem is we go into these debates being unsuspecting and you just get bamboozled all over the place. So
Yeah.
you have a lot of people who can't defend their points. They just follow and jump into the bandwagon. They jump into the bandwagon and they say, "Oh, I'm not a Pan-Africanist anymore." And all that kind of stuff. I used to be, but I'm not anymore because you couldn't defend it in the first place. You didn't even know what it was. So you just
Very
jumped
true.
into
And not
the
only that, though,
bandwagon.
Daft, this is something also which is a clever debate tactic, but
Yeah.
is actually quite powerful. What they do is they hit the man and not the point, or the woman, not the
Ah,
point. So what they will do
yes,
is
yes, yes,
this:
yes, yes, that's true.
they'll use an example of Dr. Umar Johnson,
Yeah.
and they'll use what he's done as an individual, or maybe
Mm.
issues that they don't agree with as him, like the school and everything else, to completely and utterly say that must mean Pan-Africanism is terrible because look at Dr. Umar
Look at this
Johnson,
guy.
look at
Look at this guy. Yes.
yes, look at this person, look at all these people here who have done terrible things, even though you could say for anything that is the
Let,
same
let,
thing.
let, let me give you an example of something that 100%, 100%. Yeah, like Dr. Umar Johnson. Yes, he has faults of his own and all that. Even my friend and all that, Jamaican, he told me that we can't expect all our heroes to be perfect. They're human beings and all that kind of stuff. They will make mistakes and all that stuff. This was regarding something Stormzy did and all that stuff. And it was bad. And the whole black community was kind of against him and all that stuff. And he told me, we expect our heroes to be like messiahs or prophets or something like that and all that stuff. They're just human beings too. They have lives and all that stuff. So we can't expect them to be
But you know what it
perfect.
is though. This is where I will have to say, look, yes, but you know when you're a leader, and now this is where sometimes you have to understand. Okay, Storms is just an artist who does good things, so you have to expect a certain level
Mm,
of he's not going to be remotely perfect. But you know when you have certain people who are leaders, who
mm,
are have so much skin in the game.
mm,
I agree they're not perfect, but there's certain things I see. I'm like, are you serious? For example, um, like the situation with, I don't know if you know this, but Brother Polite, he's another kind of people say Hotep's in the wrong word, but he's another one of those ones who's more Pan-Africanist. He had been charged with like molesting a teenage girl, or almost like forcible rape type thing. It's like, really? So I'm like, I get what you're saying, they're not perfect, but there has to be a level of
no,
and
that's true. That's
and
true. There has to be
some,
a level of oversight. There has to be
yeah,
because you do have these situations where what you find right now in the Pan African or in the zeitgeist, you have African leaders that are pandering to the Pan Africanist movement, right? They're pandering to it, saying, "Oh, we're gonna bring African people together," but they go and do the different thing. They go and do something else as well. So they pander to it to win elections, but they do something different. So they
yeah.
keep pandering. So you have a lot of African leaders that are pandering to it. So you have a lot of disingenuous people. Like let's say, like the Ghanaian leader, some people might say, he says he's Pan-Africanist, he welcomes all diasporas in Ghana, and then he goes, he sells out his neighbor to the United States and all that kind of stuff. That was very embarrassing and very ugly to look at and all that stuff. You understand? But never mind, he was looking out for his interest of Ghana. But
Well,
the thing is,
that's it. Yeah,
you understand? But the thing is, you have a situation in Burkina Faso where these anti-Pan-Africanists will say something like this: "Oh, Pan-Africanism is this, Pan-Africanism is that. It's just a bunch of kumbaya. But I support my new leader because he has set us free from the French and all that stuff." But while that leader will be saying, "I left ECOWAS because they were not following Pan-Africanist principles." So the leader that's setting you free still believes in Pan-Africanism. He still supports Pan-Africanism has motivated in him to take such an action in his country to free his people, yet you are against Pan-Africanism, but you champion him. You see what I'm saying? The leader it does believe in Pan-African principles, and they have spurred him to kind of set his country free, just like he has spurred many African leaders to set their countries independent. But these other Pan-Africanist detectors will say they support that guy, but they will support that guy, but they don't want to acknowledge that it's Pan-Africanists that spurred him. You see what I'm saying? So Anyways, man, why it matters? That's another side. You stick to the British stuff, I stick to the African stuff and all that stuff. You
No,
stick
no,
to
but
they stick to the British politics, I stick to the African stuff, and
no,
I'll
it
tell
does
you
interest
about
me
my
though,
channel.
Darth.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
the African stuff does interest me because yeah, man, it's crazy. It's crazy, and I do
It's
think there's a
crazy.
lot of things which don't get enough light, in my opinion, over there.
The one that is more insidious is those that argue political ideologies that's against their interest. That is the problem. Like, some people study political theory. They study political theory and study different political ideas, and they bring it up to the table. And to those who don't know any better, they just hear the word and just run with it. And all that stuff. Somebody says, "Oh, I'm a Pan-Africanist capitalist." Ah, tell me how you are a capitalist. Because to me, it seems like capitalist suits and benefits those who have advantage already. So if you don't have advantage in life, how can you be a capitalist? So you are going to create a system of capitalism in your own country as well. Leave yourself open to just get raped by those who have more money and more advantage than you. How does that make sense?
Now that's
You
the
see,
interesting one because I mean, personally, I believe you can be both. I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. I think you could
you,
either
you,
be it.
you
It
can be capitalist, you can be capitalist, but only when it benefits you. You understand? Only
yeah.
when the things are to your favor. But when the things are not in your favor and you say you are creating a capitalist system, you are just opening yourself to be raped and all that kind of stuff.
The thing is,
It's
I
like
think yeah. I think that most economies, even though they say they're capitalist, they have a heavy dose
they're
of
not. They're not.
socialism, welfare.
They're not.
Some
The
of the, I
United
mean,
States is not. The United States is not. The UK is not. All of them have protectionism measures. They
yep.
protect they protect the economies. They protect the industries to a certain level and all that stuff. Especially the United States. That's what Trump is all about,
Oh,
and
yeah,
all that
hundred
stuff.
percent, 100%.
America first. You see.
But
So
there are examples where in a capitalist society you do have protections, even like benefits. For example, in the UK, benefits is a socialist protection, you could argue, isn't it? In
yeah,
which even though it's supposed to be those who are hard and they will go to make sure that they have enough, well, supposedly have enough to make sure that they can cover the basics, essentials. So they're in a society like that, it's never fully. It's always like a mixed economy. We kind of
it's a
call it.
mixed economy. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it all
It's
depends.
it's a mixed economy, and they know it, right? But you have to be careful of those who just push agendas on without actually any holdbacks to it, because any of our people can just believe anything as well, just like this woke agenda. If you didn't come and put a stamp to it, the whole people would have just completely gone, yes, it's a woke thing, it's a woke,
Yeah,
without fully understanding. I'm not saying capitalism is bad. In the situation where the government is, where in the situation, because obviously, innovation and the creation of new products and all that stuff, yes, it cannot simply be be driven by the government because they are slow. Sometimes it's very stoic, very stoic, not stoic, very rigid. The government are sometimes rigid to actually develop new things. So you need private people to do that and all that stuff. You need private companies to do that. So it's a mixed bag. But when you don't put this caution into people, they just run with one idea. Just like if you don't put people into caution, like the woke agenda we just discussed as well, right? Yes, we say woke anti-wokeism is kind of falling into this and all into that, but we put a caution and say some people are going a bit over the top, aren't they? And are they going over the top because they are actually being genuine, or are they instigating it? You see, so there's like balances you have to make there.
no, 100% agreed. And no, and it's what happens when things aren't controlled. And this is I think this is why you don't probably agree with the capitalist approach, because I think it's a case of, do you trust those at top to be able to um manage the situation if it's definitely gonna, you know, it may just profit the top 1% of the population. So yeah, with the woke
It's
stuff,
it's
it
it's,
goes way too far
it's,
because there's not
it's,
enough controlled and rigor
yeah.
with it. So it
It's
gets
essentially
wild.
trickle down economics. It's trickle down economics.
Yeah.
Like Margaret Thatcher. What do you say? To grow the economy, we need to kind of like sell off all the national
Privatize
assets,
everything. Yeah.
privatize everything. And now look what has happened to the country and all that kind of stuff. We don't produce anything. All profit made is driven out and taken out of the country. We don't produce anything. How do you expect to grow? How are we gonna grow? To be honest, how is this fucking guy gonna
But you know what they'll say
grow,
though?
right?
They'll use the example of other nations where the government control their resources. Let's take
Yeah.
Nigeria, who control like a lot of the oil and stuff. And it's like, look at that and how that's failed their people. And it's like, you see what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
this is what happens where the idea of privatization was hopefully to
I
competition,
would argue and
competition.
say Africans have been the most private have fallen for the trap of privatization more than any other
Oh yeah,
country.
yeah.
They have fallen for democracy harder than any other country and all that kind of stuff. You can say they have not protected anything, because if
Yeah.
we did, we would be benefiting from it and all that. If you want to use an example, you use China. Who have completely protected their internal markets and all that stuff, to the point that Tesla is crying that they don't have a share in the Chinese auto vehicle market, the electric auto vehicle market. You understand? So Tesla are crying, they want in on the Chinese market. European companies want in on the Chinese market. No, but the Chinese have decided to make themselves rich as well. You understand? They will keep manufacturing and selling to the world, but inside China, we will build infrastructure for Chinese people to trade with each other, and we can make rich Chinese people rather than Westerners coming to be rich from us. You see, that is an example where protectionism, although it has been taken to an extreme extent, has produced results, but they will never quote that. You see. But the Chinese are not stupid. The Chinese have read into science. Yes, there's sometimes you need some kind of stimulation, and then you need to allow some people to have some leeway and all that stuff. But it has to be controlled. But why it matters, I don't want to go into that entire topic. But you see how that topic aligns into how people tend to run with an idea that they don't fully understand.
Oh yeah, yeah, 100%, 100%. And again, I got to hold my hands up with certain things where, and I say this a lot of times, you think you know what it stands for, or you think you know what it is, and that's why you're like, yeah, that makes sense. And then it gets the pivot happens, and it gets contorted, and then everything else gets put into this umbrella of this is woke, and it's like, no, 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 no. I didn't sign up for that. That's not woke. You just don't like that. You just don't like that particular person in that sort of area. So I'm going to call it woke. So yeah, it's just how terms can get misused and has a has a whole new way of meaning something completely different than what we thought it was. So yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
I mean, in the BBC, I can't say that I've seen much people. The BBC have been very careful in terms of like speaking like that as well and all that stuff. But I've seen a lot of alternative media that speaking like, you can find it on TikTok. You can find, oh, it's the woke brigade. It's this, woke something, woke something. It's man, I've been meaning to speak against this topic for a long time. That's why you find me impassioned. I mean, really against this topic. That's why I find. But you know where I find it annoying? Like I'm coming from another person. There's people who I expect to be very intellectually attuned and sharp to this thing that actually use that topic to. So I don't get these people. Like I have some respect for you, but why are you speaking like this? That they say something is a woke agenda. I'm sure you've seen those kind of people. I'm
Oh
sure
yeah,
you've
oh,
seen.
oh, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
So,
So
so, 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 so how do you deal with that when you find some of your closest friends or or people you have some level of respect with kind of falling for the nonsense?
again, you have to like you pick your battles, choose your battles wise. Again, in my younger years, man, I would have been a bit more like zealous about certain things and want to have a debate, but not everything has to be a debate. That's how I say. Not everything has to be a battle. Not everything has to be something which um you fall out with, unless it's something which is just outrageous. Where
There's a
um
benefit. There's a
yeah,
benefit. There's a
and that's
benefit
it.
to there's a benefit to parading that kind of talk. That's it. They see that there's some kind of benefit to parading that talk, so they continue to push that talk. They see the benefit. Everybody to a certain extent, you have Candace Owens and all this kind of stuff. They feel that there's a benefit to, and we have seen the benefit, haven't we? We have seen the benefit. Those Candace Owens, all those right wing black people that come into the talk shows and all that stuff, how they get rewarded by the powers that be immediately. How they get rewarded. So that kind of seeps into the consciousness of other people that if I talk like that, I'll be on the safe side rather than if I talk more rebelliously. If I talk more rebelliously, more consciously, or more wokely, I'll be on the receiving end of the whip. So I have to talk. I have to talk in line with the powers that be.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
instead of taking a rebellious attitude.
I agree. And this is it really, and this is how. And I don't like using this word or term when it comes to tokens and sellouts, but they do become like tokens, as just pin-ups to be able to say what exactly what my slave master wants me to say, if I lack a better word. I can't think of a better word, but yeah, it's just what happens. So
Exactly.
yeah.
See what my sleeve, what Buster wants me to say. Zulia, man, I've never heard Zulia ever use the word against woke people and all that. Zulia has never been that type. Zulia has just been against African leaders and their nonsense and all that kind of stuff. But he's never said something about the woke agenda and all that stuff. He just said a whole lot of shit about African people, obviously. Yeah, I mean. But he's never been against the woke agenda. He's never been against. He's a fascinating guy and all that kind
I
of
think
stuff.
again, this is the way, because he's disgruntled with how things are.
He's
So this
disgruntled.
is
Yeah,
where
that's
it's
how I
on
feel.
me.
He's disgruntled. Yeah, he's
That's it.
disgruntled. That's how
That's
I
it.
feel. Yeah.
And these are the people who, depending on where it is, you can influence them in certain ways, because again, I'm disgruntled. I'm sure everyone's been disgruntled. So this is how you can get roped up in certain situations where you're like, oh,
Mm.
whoa, how have I got from there to there? But it's because you're disgruntled. So
That's a
yeah,
big point you just made. Yeah. That's a big point. Right? We do have a whole lot of disgruntled people. So
yep,
which people do they target at the end of the day when they speak? Obviously, they're not targeting people like us. They're not targeting people like you, why it matters. People that can see through the bullshit. You're not their target audience and all that stuff. So the right wing people who are already saying it serves their interest that these people keep pushing the woke agenda. Even people like Priti Patel or no coconuts and Oreos, it serves their interest and all that stuff. But for the people that are sitting in between, that is the target audience.
exactly. And another channel said this, which is quite true. Sometimes people, even though they're talking to you, they're speaking through you to somebody else, maybe somebody who's listening to the conversation. So I'm going to speak to you or through you to another people who's listening, and that's how it happens. So yeah,
It happens in debates. You find that in debates sometimes, like
oh yeah, oh yeah,
you're debating someone, you think he's actually debating you, but he's not talking to you. He's talking to the audience, and he's
absolutely,
talking in a language that they understand because he can see you can understand the complexity of everything, but he can just say things in ways that the simple folk can understand. That you understand? So that man, I don't know, man. I don't know, bro. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't
that's
know.
it,
But
that's it.
this thing is there, man. But Alan, it's good you're back on YouTube, my guy.
Yeah, man. We're definitely trying to start this back. Well, I say
You know what I'm
we're
saying?
definitely back on again. So
I'm not gonna. I don't like labeling people. I'm not gonna label you this side or that side or something. But stand by your truth, whatever is your truth. Yeah, stand by
yeah, I
your
mean,
truth, whatever is your truth. If you're like that, that's respectable enough. And I'll stand by your truth and all that stuff. I don't like to put people, he's this, he's that, and all that stuff. But as long as you stand by your truth, that's okay. And I think you can win some people over and all that stuff. You know what I mean? So a whole lot of people are out there to win them over and all that stuff. I think people who make lies a lot. This is something I got. Like the more you immerse yourself into something, like Sith philosophy, the more you immerse yourself into the dark side as well, the more you start to physically deteriorate as well. The more you take drugs, the more it starts to affect you physically. You start to deteriorate and all that. The more you do something, the more you start to reflect it and all that stuff. So in Star Wars philosophy is, you know why Palpatine got those blue eyes? Why the Sith always have the Sith always have the yellow eyes and all that stuff? Because the more they immerse themselves with the dark side arts, the more they physically start to deteriorate, even though they have the greatest experience of the force or the power. The more you take drugs, the more of your experience increases, but the more it deteriorates you physically as well. You understand? So there has to be limits, and that's what the Jedi philosophy. There has to be limits to certain things as well, so that you don't end up destroying yourself and all that. Don't let anything become a drug to you. If you take more drugs, it's gonna physically deteriorate you. So the more you lie as an individual, the more lies you make, the more you start to reflect that monster, that lying monster, or that monster of a liar. You understand? The more you start to reflect, and eventually you carry that energy, you become unpalatable to people. Could you say John Barnes is a palatable type of person?
I think so.
John Barnes is a palatable type of person across all media.
It can be, you know. I mean, when you say palatable, you mean because
Is
to me that means
everybody able to, okay, let's say
everyone's able
Candace
to
Owens.
communicate. He's quite somebody who has breadth and depth to be able to communicate across the board, and it's everyone seems to respect that. That's how I understand what you mean by palatable. He's someone that people his message is easily to be understood. I say easy, but is understood by many, sort of thing.
Candace, okay, let's use Candace Owens. Is she a palatable person?
Only for her target demographics.
Suella Braverman, is she a palatable
No,
person?
only for her target demographic. But when you say John Barnes, he can be, you know, I'll be honest with you, he can be palatable. But when he said Candace Owens and when he say Swallow Brother, then no, then no.
Mm. Well, I don't know. I don't know who. From John Barnes, from what I've heard of him, he tends to be quite a kind of an interesting character and all that kind of stuff. Very divergent and all that stuff. But never mind it. But you get the gist of what I'm trying to say.
No,
And
no,
all
I
that stuff.
do. I do. I do. But that's why I said John Barnes is quite interesting because I've listened to John Barnes a lot, you see. But yeah, I hear what you're saying though. I hear what you're saying. But yeah, I know Candace Owens is whatever. No chance, no chance. And
Okay.
on that sort of metaphysical thing, and always talk about the force and don't let it consume you because obviously I'm not really as a Star Wars type of fan like that, so I can't really relate to it. But I understand exactly the point you made. But you are right though. You are right. There are a lot of things where people, if you detox from it, a lot of people's health get better because they're so intertwined with certain things. Their health suffers. It's just like people have absolutely become too consumed in certain things where I'm seeing them absolutely break down. It's crazy.
The more you are a seething liar, the more you're a seething liar, the more it starts to reflect in your face. Nobody's gonna be able to trust you. Everybody can just because your face will start to contort to reflect it. You understand? You understand what I mean? Your face will start to contort to reflect the sneak that you are. That everybody can look at you and just say that guy is a sneak. Yeah, he looks like a rat, so I should stay away from him. I'm not lying. I'm telling you, bro. I can see that. Like you can just look at someone and just say this guy. He's been telling so much fibs and lies in the world that he looks like a rat himself.
I'm trying to think of a notable example where you see you're like, oh, you look like a rap, right? But I'll say this: I don't know what your viewpoints on someone like Robert Mugabe. That guy lasted until he's like 100 years old, man. That guy didn't relinquish power, bro.
Yeah. Well, Robert Mugabe, he's a man from his point of view. He was a man from his point of view. He was a man that was keeping to his word and telling
Oh
his
yeah,
truth and all
oh
that
yeah.
stuff. So it's very hard to see that kind of stuff. But if you look at someone like Suella Braverman and all that kind of stuff, you can tell you can't trust that person.
You probably just
You
don't
can
like
tell
to
she
see it.
looks like a rat, bro. She looks sweet. She looks sweet like a weasel. She looks like a weasel.
Oh gosh, oh gosh. You know,
You know that?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I have to take a look at her again. I think it's because her face, her facial feature and everything. It
Her
is.
face and features looks like a weasel.
What
I'm
about Pretty
telling you.
Patel though? Does she look? To me, she looks a bit more smug.
She's got some contented face. Her mouth, she speaks on the side of her mouth, so she definitely does have some contortion there and all that stuff. And I could see it. I could see it. You know what
Oh
I mean?
god.
I could see it. Pretty Patel is like that. Rishi Sunak is like that. These people have no shred of integrity in them and all that stuff, and you can see it and all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? David Cameron wasn't he shagging shagging a pig or something?
When he was young. Oh yeah, I've heard about these stories and stuff like that. Yeah, yeah.
You see what I mean? So the more you immerse yourself into something, I'm not just saying it could be a good thing. It could be something positive or something, but the more you immerse yourself into it, you start to reflect you start to reflect it as well and all that stuff. So the more you are a liar in your life, you kind of start to carry that energy with you.
No,
You know
I
what I'm
hear that. I hear that. There are some things which I've seen which I'm like, yeah, that's that energy that you've been carrying, man, that can't be good for you. But hey, the thing is, the reason I can't go too far with it is because there are a lot of evil people out there who just live on forever, and a lot of people who are good who just yeah
They die.
they go too soon. So
Well, how do we put this? And there's I think there's the good die young. Yes,
yeah, that's
the
the
good
classic
good
quote.
die
Yeah,
young.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And
the
it's
good
like,
die
man,
young.
it's like it just there's a quote that's a good one where it listen, it rains on a poor man just like it rains on the rich man. It rains on the sick like it rains on the person who's fit and healthy, man. It is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
yeah, yeah.
It's
Anyway,
madness.
Darth,
It's madness. Yeah.
I could carry on for a long time, but I do want to. I do want to keep this not as long, but no, thank you
Mm.
for coming on to the show, man. I do appreciate it. Um,
No
let me know
worries.
your channel, man. Let me know
Let me
your
tell
channel.
you. Let me tell you my channel. Yes, let me tell you my channel. My channel right now is private because I'm trying to grow it privately and
Oh,
silently in the
okay. So do
deep
you want?
depth,
Okay,
in the deep depth of space. Because I'll be getting some interesting people to kind of talk about certain topics and all that stuff.
I got you.
It's yeah. Like sometimes you might find me in other channels where I'm dusty. Yeah, like some channels where I'm dusty, and 100% dusty and all that kind of stuff. But because of the situation and I'm put in a battle, so I have to battle. You understand?
I hear you.
So
I hear you. I hear you.
because of that, I have to fight. So because I have to fight, you find me in that situation. But really and truly, I would prefer a much more civilized. So I'm gonna get my own people to come and talk about certain topics and all that stuff, right? So
I mean, you can put in a private chat if you just want it
yeah,
private. So you just want it.
I'll put in the private chat for now. I'll put in the private chat
Okay. Okay.
for
'Cause I
now
don't.
and all
Yeah.
that stuff. You know what I mean? So you do have these two channels of mine and all the stuff, but sometimes you get one stream on the other side, another stream on another side. So let me just see the other channel. So it's just a lot more, it gives you a lot more control on what you put out and all that stuff, because there's somebody that I'm looking out for. There's some dickhead. There's some dickhead.
One of the streams you've been dusting up. You've been getting into
There- there-
beefs.
there- there's some dickhead that I'm watching out for, and I'm moving away deep into the depths of space to come back. You know, when you're building an empire, you don't build it in front of somebody else's empire. You go deep into the depths of space somewhere far away
So you can build it up and then come and then.
and build it up, and then come from the other side. You know what I mean? But if you build right away and you can see that you're gonna be competition, he kill you straight away. You know that stuff.
I hear you. I hear you.
You know what I
Oh
mean? So
gosh.
let's see what's the other channel and that. So I know he's gonna hear this and all other guys. And you know what I mean? Guys, a dusty guy. He's an intellectual guy, but he's a smart guy. But sometimes,
I
man,
wonder if it's the guy who I'm thinking of. I wonder if
you know, I don't.
I've
You can type it if you want. I know. So,
I'll put it in the private chat. I don't know if I spelt it right, but yeah.
yeah. The guy has a lot of control of the narrative, and he's recently aware that you know you cannot push your own narrative in somebody else's channel. Come on. You know what I mean? He has a own agenda of his own, and you're trying to push your own agenda in his own channel. You're not gonna win. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, get the fuck out of here. He's like, get the fuck out of here and all that time.
Well,
Go
this
build
is
your
it.
own
This is
channel.
it. When it's their own channel, their own people's, then no, you're gonna have a hard time, man. You're gonna have a hard time, depending on
Yeah.
who the person is. But yeah, you're right. You're right.
And that's why Pan-Africanism has been on the back foot. Like there's almost no Pan-Africanist channels these days on YouTube. None of them. We all been yes. None of them. We all been kicked out of YouTube. There's none. I tell you. You understand? There's no Pan-Africanist channels on this. Yes, exactly. That's what I mean. Yes, that's true. Yeah. You understand? So exactly. You must have heard some nonsense there and all that stuff.
Oh, it's the home of it. I see it. So I'm like,
Yeah,
it really is like you say dusty channel, man. It does just get dusty up there. So
a whole lot of people like you bring up a good topic and then it just all turns into some kind of something else and all that stuff. But we're trying to avoid that and all that stuff. So I'll not be making long, lengthy streams and all that stuff. You understand? But that's for me on my side. I what do you call it? The real Pan-Africanism strikes back is coming.
yeah, man. So
You
yeah,
know,
hopefully. I mean, I'll say
and
this.
it will be controlled and it will be on my way. You will come and talk honestly. If you have any questions about Pan-Africanism or anything, you can ask your question as long as the question is genuine. If I sense any ingenuous question or any logical fallacy you make, I'll kick you out straight away. That's what I know. I don't like those people. They like the logical fallacies. I see this all the time in talks and debates and all that. And I want to say something about it, but you're controlled, so you have to wait for your turn. Shit.
I will say this though, you know, based on what you're trying to do, you're gonna get a lot of pushback. So
There will not be. There will be what pushback? What pushback? Unless you want to malign me, I will say what I have to say on my channel,
of
and you
course,
will
but
hear what I have to say. Unless you have something against me to say and all that stuff, bring it on and bring it on and all that kind of stuff, and come and talk to me and all that stuff. But it just gives me more control of what I have to say, what I want to say.
absolutely. I mean, look, obviously your channel, your rules apply, is what it is. But yeah, I can imagine there being pushback just because. Well, yeah, I can imagine there be pushback.
Yeah, there will definitely be pushback, but I have never shied away from such a battle. I have always defended, and all up to today, I've been one of the ones that have not jumped into the bandwagon of anti-Pan-Africanism. But for those who I see they can't defend it, it's just I'm against I'm Pan-Africanist, but I'm not anymore. I'm Pan-African, but I'm not anymore. You know what I mean? Someone say, "Oh, I'm left, but I'm not anymore. I'm woke, but I'm not anymore." You know what I mean? I'm against the woke agenda. You know what I'm saying? People, one thing I hate in life, I watched it from the days I was watching Big Brother, and I watch human behavior and how human beings interact. Most people are cowards, and most people are weak, and most people are spineless. I tell you, most people just want to get along and all that kind of stuff. And they jump into the bandwagon all the fucking time as well. And I see these people are weak, but you have to be clever in your life how you navigate them. You understand me? You have to be clever.
Yeah.
But one thing you must know about yourself: if you're in the wilderness with these people, you can always consume them. You can always eat them. They're not strong. They're weak.
But this is it. I mean, the problem is it's safer in the crowd, isn't it? That's the reason why. So to answer your question, people will go along with the because it's safer in the crowd as opposed to being by themselves. So even if they don't want to be, but go where the crowd's going. It's like when I go to if you ever go to like football matches and things like that, and it's like I just look at him, people carrying on like an idiot just because it's there with the crowd. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that mess. But yeah, it's the mob mentality. Mob mentality.
Mob mentality. I see that, but people, when you watch people with integrity, just kind of just sell out like that and all, and just jump into the bandwagon, it's very very embarrassing to see as well and all that stuff. And I've seen that quite often. But never mind. That's something. Who am I to criticize? But I've never been the type to do that. I don't jump into the bandwagon. Have I ever done that in my life? I can't think. I can't remember when. I'm sorry. I'm a born out, bona fide rebel. 100% bona fide rebel.
Well, the thing is, again, a lot of people on the right who are anti-woke, they're meant to be rebels too, bro. So it's all about how you see
people,
things.
Oh yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I suppose they can. I suppose
that's it,
that's true.
It's treason is always a matter of dates and times. So a lot of these things are just a matter of perspectives. Let's just say that. You know what I mean? War rebels to somebody.
Are they really rebels though? Are they really rebels? Let's just it's quite interesting. Man, are they really rebels? We'll explore that one. Okay, that's quite an interesting topic to say, right? They tend to fancy themselves to be quite rebels and all
they
that.
Do.
Kind of
they
stuff.
do. If you listen to them, they think that they're fighting against the zeitgeist. They're fighting against the Matrix. So
yes.
That's it.
The Matrix that benefits them the most, they think they are fighting against it. The Matrix that actually puts them in power. So where does this come from? Why do they believe that they are now? It's like they are now the victims. You know what I mean? The people who blame people for being victimhood or something, or people say, "Oh, this being a victim." They are now taking the victimhood agenda and say, "We are the victims of this this system that's benefiting us. We are the victims."
It's funny, and I agree. It's funny how they do it, don't it? But when they say it, it's real. When someone else says it, it's fake. It's funny that, isn't it?
Man.
Anyway, thank you again for jumping on. I've subscribed to both of your channels, by the way. So
no worries. I just say stand your ground. Look, your work is not affected. Nobody on YouTube can affect anything as long as you keep yourself private and all that kind of stuff. Keep yourself private at all times and all that stuff. You don't need to know. I don't need to know you. You don't need to know my name. I just need to hear what your ideas are. That's all. If I disagree with anybody on YouTube, I don't need to know who you are, what you're making, what background you're making, what money, whatever you are doing in life. I don't want to know. I want to hear the ideas in your head, wherever your background is.
No,
You see
I
what I'm
hear that.
saying?
I respect that. So yeah.
But many people come with it, they're just, oh, I'm this, I'm that, I'm that. As if I care, bro. You can wave all your accolades as you want. If you say something stupid on the panel, you're gonna get it from me. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? But anyway,
No,
never
I hear
mind.
you. I hear you. I hear you. So no, 100%. But no, great to hear from you,
Yeah,
Darth. Always like hearing your perspective as always, and thanks for coming on.
yeah.
People in chat, thank you for joining. Please like the stream, share the stream, subscribe if you are new. Back again with a live stream next week for definite. But yeah, until then, thanks everyone. See you later.
All right. Peace out. Peace out. Peace out, man. Peace out.